with the hour being after 7 o'clock, we'll open up the meeting of September 6th with a quorum being present. First item of business, Joe's back. Second item, we'll make a motion to...
Make a motion to accept Joe back?
All those in favor? All those opposed?
Welcome back, Joe.
Thank you
Good
for
to
the
have
negative vote.
Joe, there's a lot of time they need for cable to show you pictures, right?
I don't think they want to see these pictures.
They got arrested, huh?
What about your fan club?
Not too many people in that club.
Minutes of August 16th. Make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Any further discussions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain. We have a 4-0-1. Okay. Now, there. We still under the gun for Robbie Boy? Not Robbie, the better Rob.
He's there. Yeah, he's got it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'll let you two figure out who the better Rob is.
Yeah, but get that out, yeah.
Yeah, only because he's gotta go down,
I know.
unless you wanna get, you can, we're almost there. It's almost 7:05. Okay. 7:05. Okay, the hour being after 7:05, we have a scenic road hearing for 810 North Street. And with the provisions of Chapter 40, Section 15C, Scenic Road Act of Mass General Laws is amended, and Chapter 87, notice hereby given to the planning board. The tree warden will hold a joint scenic road public hearing in the town hall on September 6th at 7:05 p.m. per request of Michael Dowling, 74 Summit Ave. Said public hearing is to allow the removal of approximately 18 feet of stone wall, installation of a driveway of an entrance at 810 North Street. Okay, with that being open, we have a map of this. Do you have anything? Oh, it's in here. Okay. And this one. Everybody knows where it is. And this was, okay, so anybody who's in the audience doesn't understand about scenic road hearings, North Street's one of them, Lincoln Road, we got a bunch of others, Peach Street, and anytime you have a stone wall or a tree that's owned by the town on a scenic way, you have to have a public hearing. And one of the purposes of this is so that, you know, people aren't just chopping trees down, moving stone walls. But one of the things you have to understand in any situation is if you have a lot and there's a stone wall in front of it on town property, they have to allow you access. So I think this is why it's here tonight. You only have to allow the one access for the removal. You don't have to have multiple, you don't have to knock stone walls down for better sight distances or trees. It's wherever you're trying to put your driveway. So with that being said, okay, well, I want the applicant. Whoever's speaking to, go ahead, Rob.
Good evening, board members. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robert LeBlanc, Town of Walpole, tree warden. On Tuesday, I met with the applicant out at the site at 810 North Street. We went out and walked the perimeter of the front wall. The best point that I can use for reference on this drawing is the utility pole. That's a good point. So to the west of that, approximately 42 feet is where the applicant is asking for the opening in the wall. Presently, right now, on the east end of the wall is where he has a temporary opening so that he used for construction purposes to develop the lot, to build the residence that's there. The temporary opening is it's approximately 24 feet wide, and it's consisted of stones that made up the wall. The stone wall itself is probably a better and more well-built stone wall on the western side, and as you get further down the property towards the eastern end, kind of ends up being kind of a rubble wall is what it is. On the far west end of the stone wall, there was a historic opening into the lot, probably about 12 feet wide. That still exists today as is. And down on the east end where he did his temporary opening to develop the lot, there was also some type of a break in the wall that had always been there. He just opened it up a little bit more. We walked the distance. This drawing shows approximate location of where he would like to get that driveway to access North Street. And Mr. Dowling might like to speak more on that, unless you have any questions.
We'll hold them, I guess, till we'll all hear everything and read all the comments.
Thank you. Where I'm proposing to come out, I'm just concerned, I asked for 18 feet, and it's a pretty dangerous range. I want to increase that to 24. The wall's about 4 feet high, so if you're gonna be pulling out of there, I'm gonna have a blind spot. And I do have a drawing showing it at 24 if you guys wanna see it.
So you wanna change what it's been advertised
From
as.
18, yeah, the original is 18, but if, you know, after pulling in and out of there, it's just a dangerous road. So I figure if I can increase it, it's gonna be a lot safer going in and out.
Well, the only issue we have with that is you're changing the plans and everybody's comments and the public was advertised at this 18, so I don't think we can change this on the fly.
Okay.
So you'd have to probably just ask, go through the thing again, just ask if you can go to 24 feet.
Could I keep the 18 now and?
You come back, yeah, you can come back to the
continue
24 if you want.
on? No, I wanna get the paving in now, just so I can safely leave the house right now. Right now, it's really hard to get in and out.
You have an 18 proposed, we
Yeah.
can act on the 18.
Approximately 18
Yeah,
is what I have,
we can't act on the 24.
Okay.
Now, if we act on the 18 and you still wanna change it, you can always ask to come back and make it
Okay.
24.
That'll work.
Okay. All right, you have anything else at the moment, or is that it? You all set?
All set, thank you.
Okay, I'll read comments from the other boards that were notified. Conservation has no jurisdictional concerns regarding the property. Historical Commission, as it's a scenic, what they indicated, that as it's a scenic road, the stone wall is representative of the scenic road and the properties in the area. Historical Commission desires that the stone wall be created in the same manner as currently built or reused on the property. One possibility, the stones could be relocated to align the east side of the proposed new driveway, providing plenty of room for snow removal. The commission would like the applicant to submit a revised plan showing the Historical Commission where the stone wall be recreated. Now, that's, okay. Board of Selectmen at their September 4th voted the following of the request: 18-foot stone wall removal and I'm sorry. At the Board of Selectmen's meeting on September 4th, the board voted the following with respect for the removal of 18 feet of stone wall, 810 North Street. The board supports the planning board's protection of scenic road, encourages the reuse of the stones within the stone wall and or the extension of the wall. And Maggie, do you want to read yours?
Well, I can read it if you want. It's just that's pretty much what everybody else has been saying. The only new thing I have is that the curb cut, wherever it is, has to be at least 10 feet from the utility pole. That comes from the standard curb cut policy, just so that when they pull out, they don't, or plowing, that doesn't damage the utility pole. My department's echoing the same thing others have said about reusing the stone somehow, whether it's further in the wall or for curb returns. And it's, at one point I had a conversation with the developer of this lot, and he had indicated he might go greater than 18 feet, so that's already been being dealt with, and that's it.
Okay. So the comments, anyone from the public have any questions, comments? The board?
Yes.
Joe?
Rob, on this map, if you go out to the site, there's 2 sticks. Is that where the proposed opening is for this driveway?
That's correct.
Okay, and then on this side is where the opening was made
On the
for
east end, yeah.
construction.
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but shouldn't have this all been done before the construction started?
I think that the law allows for a temporary movement, for a temporary opening. And what he needs to do is he needs to replace the temporary so that the only opening would be the permanent opening, and that's what he's asking for, is the location of the permanent opening.
Okay, so this is permissible.
Yes.
Okay. Now, as you come down North Street from this side here, I guess this would be the what, west side?
Yeah.
There are some trees over there. Do they block his sight line?
The only tree that's in the public way is on the west side of that property line. It's probably an 18-inch cedar tree. It's right next to the natural opening that was there. We've talked about it. The rest of it is scrub and just miscellaneous, road growth.
Should that come down in terms of,
Cedar tree, I personally don't think that it needs to.
how about the scrub growth?
Scrub growth could certainly be cleaned up, yes, absolutely.
Can he get, does he need permission of the board to do that, or can he
It's
just?
less than 4 inches by planning board and less than 1.5 inches by master and law 87, so I would say he would have the right to do that, yes.
So that he can get a better sight line from that end. Okay, so the plan would be, the whole wall is gonna be repaired?
I believe that you're gonna do work on the entire length of the wall as
Yeah,
well.
what I pull out, I'm gonna put in the natural openings that have been there. So the wall will be the same length, I'm not gonna change it at all.
Okay, so like many of the new homes on North Street have installed walls professionally. Are you installing this wall professionally, or are you going to do just pile on rock or whatever, which was what was there?
I'm not sure at this point.
Well, I'll interrupt. You gotta put, it's the town's wall, gotta put it back the way it was. You can't just decide you're gonna make something pretty like the guy up past, and that's on his property.
Right.
But you gotta put it back the way it is. You don't, they don't have a choice.
On the line, on the town.
When it's on the town property, it's gotta go back the way it was. You
Okay.
can't make it pretty or whatever you like.
It's not very pretty, the way it was. It's
I
just
liked
kinda-
it. Farmers liked it.
Okay. All right, so the game plan would be to do what is proposed now and file another submission in order to get an additional 6 feet.
Yes, because I wouldn't have to increase my driveway side. It would stay the same, so I could put my driveway in. I'm worried about the rocks being 4 feet high pulling out, being obstruction, because it's so close to the road. You have to virtually pull your entire vehicle out front to be able to see them, to pull out safely, and you're already on the road.
Right. Okay, thank you.
The house is occupied now?
Not yet,
Okay.
half complete.
So when you say pulling out, you can't see, do you mean from the temporary opening?
The site is on a hill, and traffic comes around really fast, so you've gotta be really quick when you do, pull out. And not only that, if I'm taking a right, the road is so narrow there that you're going into the other lane. And that's why I wanted a bit wider, so I wasn't exactly perpendicular to the street. I could be slightly angled if I was going out on the right-hand side, so I would not come into oncoming traffic. Because the road's probably 18, 20 feet there.
22.
Is it 22?
22 foot of pavement.
Pretty narrow
yeah.
once you pull out, and now you have to
For
make
travel
the turns.
Okay.
What's that? Mark?
I'm good with it.
Yeah, just a question. So how tall is the wall? How high is it? The wall height?
Wall height, about 3 feet.
Where I'm pulling out, yeah, it varies, but where I'm proposing, it's probably 3.5 to 4, and then it drops down.
Okay. And are so you're planning to reuse the wall elsewhere
yeah.
on the property? And do you know, like, where you're gonna use it?
I'm sorry.
Do you know the location of where you're going to relocate the wall?
Yeah, I put them, probably make the wall a bit higher where it drops down.
Okay.
And I'm also gonna have to bring it over to the other opening. The natural opening is slightly enlarged. I wanna fill that in.
Okay. Okay, that's fine, yeah, no other comments, questions?
Question, the stones from the temporary opening, where do they go?
They're gonna go in the natural openings that we have. There are 2 natural openings on
Okay.
that lot. I'm gonna fill them in.
So whatever you got left, you're just gonna fill in?
Yeah, it's all gonna stay on that wall. The rocks aren't going anywhere.
Okay.
So we're basically just moving the opening is all we're doing.
Okay, I understand. That was my only question. With nobody, you wanna get anything else, Rob?
I just want to get direction from the board. He's going to do an 18-foot opening, and then you're going to be back, and I will confirm that it's an 18-foot opening, and then if the board gives him the okay for the 24, then you can continue on with your construction to make your roundings if you want to do that at the end of the driveway out onto the street, and I'll confirm to the board that that's been accomplished.
Now, if I find I can get out at 18 and I'm safe, I'm gonna leave it.
Oh, that's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
You're gonna have an
so I don't
opportunity to see if it
wanna-
works.
I don't wanna do any extra work,
Yeah.
moving rocks around.
So we may never see again.
I hopefully don't.
Well,
Okay.
if that's the case, then maybe if he just does the 18-foot opening and he doesn't come back again, then he probably should comply with the Historical Commission's request now.
Yeah.
But if he does come back,
What
you know, we could
He has
put
to.
this on hold until he comes back, the Historical Commission's request.
Well, it's only a request, but what he's gonna do is take all the rocks and put them back along the wall somewhere, so he's gonna have none left. That's what we're here for. I don't,
Yeah, which is a requirement anyway.
yeah,
Right.
so we just, whatever you take out, you put back.
So we're just gonna act like we never heard about the 24, and if he decides to come back in, that's
Right.
up to him.
Right.
He
Yeah.
stays by the rules.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you get 5 feet extra rock, you're just gonna throw them on top somewhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's my interest to have a nice wall
Yeah,
in front of the house.
and you don't need to be humping rocks all over your property either, so. Meaning that if you're not gonna put them on top, it's too much of a pain to bring them in the backyard, so. I mean, that's what we're here for, is for that. I didn't, so. Make a motion to approve, the scenic road with the provision that all the rocks from the new opening are put in anywhere and everywhere along the existing wall to fill in any openings that are there. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All
Do
those-
you want to mention the 18-foot gap?
No, I mean, he's got the, well, it's shown on the plan, well, we would say it's an 18-foot, that's what he advertised for, yeah.
Okay.
Do you wanna reword that? I don't know how technical it gets, but you said any and all openings,
That's what he's gonna do, yeah, he's gonna,
up until the point he runs out of rocks that he
Correct.
pulled out.
Yeah.
Okay.
all rocks will be reused to fill in any openings that are there. And for the and we approve it based upon 18-foot opening. And I had a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, done.
Thank you.
I thought you had him going out and buying more rocks.
Whatever he's got. Oh, yeah, are we at that point? Okay. Gonna take something out of order only because we're at the time, but we had 2 public hearings tonight. Continue Bristol Brothers public hearing for Renmar 18-8, for site plan and a special permit 18-9 at 716, from the law firm of Doran, Taccio, and Morgan. We have this letter. It says, as you're aware, we represent Bristol Development with respect to applications for 18-8 and 18-9 for the proposed development on Renmar Ave. The applicant requests that their application be withdrawn without prejudice. It's their intention to submit a nearly new identical plan for the board's consideration this week. They request to withdraw and resubmission of applications is to resolve a potential issue related to public notice. So, as such, they request naturally their filing fees to be waived, as everybody does, but we'll deal with one. I'll make a motion to allow them to withdraw 18-8 and 18-9 without prejudice.
Second.
Second. Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, as far as the fees, we don't have to take that up now. Unless someone wants to. No? Okay, we'll wait for them to, because we may never know when they come back. Yeah, because they could just withdraw and we'd have to give them our money back.
Let's not do that.
Okay.
All right, let's see, who else can we put in front of you guys? Not even listening. Look at that.
Okay, this
Alright,
is
then,
173,
well,
and stuff is on the top folder.
Okay, we're all set, meeting adjourned. Look at that, I can't even get them up.
Where's your gavel?
I'm the man. They may pay you, but I'd be the man. They don't pay you? Okay. All right, with the hour being after 7:01, we have a continued public hearing for 173 Pemberton Street. And at the last hearing, we had a few issues that were gonna be resolved. One of them was about building the property with the two houses, one on, and saying one fronts on one street, one fronts on the other. And what we got back from Jonathan Eichman, KP Law, our attorney, I'll read it. On Friday, August 24th, he wrote, "Thank you for the plan and related information. No need to apologize with respect to the board's," and the apology was because we had sent it to former attorney there who had since retired. But with respect to the board's question, in my opinion, an owner can lawfully divide his or her land and create a two-lot subdivision where one is a corner lot with frontage on an existing road, even where the address for one or both of the new lots would be on the existing road and not on the subdivision roadway. A plan that shows a subdivision of two or more buildable lots in a subdivision plan, regardless how they're placed, a plan that is a subdivision, I'm not good tonight. A plan that shows a subdivision land and two or more buildable lots is a subdivision plan, regardless how the buildings are placed. So what he's indicated is that it is a subdivision, but not necessarily have to both be on the same road, and that you can use the frontage on Pemberton. I think that's what you were asking for. We had some new comments too. Did you have anything new to bring up?
No, since the last meeting, I met with Margaret, we went over the remaining comments. I did send in a set of revised plans just to put the site distance on the plan that she had requested. So that's on the plan now, but since that, we've added no new information. I think you've provided a new comment.
Okay, we got a new plan. We had a few other comments. Board of Health, September 5th. At its September 4th meeting, they voted to reiterate their comments made at January 16th, 17th, January 16th, April 17th, and August 14th. The board approves the proposed subdivision plan. It requires all trash and recycling to be placed at Pemberton Street for collection. From Board of Water Sewer, the Board of Water Sewer concurs with the town engineer's comments. Additionally, all applicable water and sewer fees must be paid. We gotta put that in the decision. And from Tom and Karen Mulroy, dated September 4th. As a planning board meeting on August 16th, the chairman indicated two-lot subdivision of the cul-de-sac was a legal option for Pemberton, additionally noting that may be turned over to the town to maintain. If it continues to be our belief that proving any way is to create more driveway-like road, not a legal two-lot subdivision with a cul-de-sac, and validates the subdivision, brings it back to a single-family home on Pemberton. If elected officials determined to agree the structure be on this back lot, as I hope the planning board will only approve the cul-de-sac option. Okay, and this is from you, Maggie,
Which date?
your
Okay.
email.
Oh, that was an email that I received, I think, after the last meeting. The board had a couple of questions.
Yeah, okay, do you wanna, are you gonna answer?
You might as well read it. I didn't make myself a copy of that. I didn't know that was gonna be read, or I would have been prepared.
Okay, these are, oh, that's right, you weren't here. Were you here? No.
No.
Okay, that night, John and Larry questioned the 30-foot roundings, if they meet the 30-foot. On one side, no, because the rules and regs allow it to be less than 30 feet. See section 4-4E. John questioned the alignment with Captiva. The line, I believe, do intersect as per the plans, and that's rule 4-4-D. And we we asked for your updated comments, and that's what you,
And then you have August 22nd, which just has a couple of things that I'd request, if it's approved, be made conditions of approval.
they're in here.
I can give you mine if it isn't, it should be.
All the same. Nope, not there. You wanna read them?
It just, you can read them. I thought you wanted it for the file.
What one are we,
The three with the tick marks down below.
oh, okay. These are from August 22nd.
Yep.
A house should have a permanent street. That should be condition approval. If we allow a 20-foot roadway with the pavers, as developer requests, the condition approval shall be imposed to requiring their engineer to be on site during the installation of the geogrid and associated trench, and then also a requirement imposed that a 20-foot clear should be maintained for fire access. And the last one is drainage. Planning board should discuss the legality of using roof leaching galleries as stormwater management for infrastructure for the roadway. Street stormwater infrastructure should be bonded as part of the roadway items, but typically items associated with the home construction cannot be bonded as not part of the infrastructure. It's recommended this be included as a condition of approval. So you want us to discuss?
No, we already did the discussion part. I just recommended that because it's going to be used as part of the street infrastructure, to make the stormwater management for the street work, that the galleys be part of the bond, or that they be installed.
Well, they're having discussions and something else, but I would, I'm not fighting.
What?
So the concern is the leaching.
We could have done this over at Napa's a lot easier.
Margaret's asking that when we bond the road, we include the leaching galleys for the house as part of the bond.
Well, thanks, John. I was gonna say you had to anyway, because if you're doing anything part of the road,
We woke him up for that.
yeah, you have to do, you're gonna have to do it, and I agree with Maggie.
We're fine with that.
Thank you. I'm glad you are.
Glad we bothered him for that.
Too bad he doesn't know what else you committed him to. Okay, I do not have any other comments, questions. You all set, Maggie?
I am.
Joe?
Yes, thank you.
Kate?
I'm good.
Mark?
I'm fine with it.
Sarah?
Yeah. So this is more just for the board. So I just wanted to ask, like, maybe we should ask the building commissioner for a comment on this. Like, one of the lawyers brought up that there's kind of conflicting parts of the bylaw, like definition says one thing and then, section whatever it is says something else. So is that something that we internally should look at? And is that also the building commissioner's opinion, that this is what should be, that we should allow subdivision where one of the lots is taking frontage on an existing road? Or is there anything we need to do internally to? I would just, I don't know what the board's,
Well, we got-
pleasure is, but I think we should get an opinion.
No, from here on out, but the building
Because
inspector.
we keep mentioning this
Yeah.
to many different projects, so let's be clear.
Yeah, that's true. I think we're hung up, at least I was, is the fact that having a subdivision not gotta be in the same road, but as long as you divide it in two, it doesn't matter where it is. The other thing I think you're talking.
It makes sense,
Yeah.
what you said, so
You
we
want the
should-
building commissioner to propose an article for the spring?
Well, if he thinks it's an issue, but
Just a question, like, is that his understanding? Is there any
Well, we can ask him
recommendation
that.
to change anything? Because,
yeah, is it an issue for him?
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. Okay, but before, anyone from the audience, public have any questions, comments?
I got another question.
Oh, you do? I'm sorry. If you want to, I'll just sit it all set.
There was a mention about the street trees, and then you said you didn't want the waiver because you were putting street trees, but you're gonna put them in a different location. But are those on the plan?
We didn't show them on the plan, they were gonna go on that property line up the right side. So what we agreed to do was we'll take the number of trees that would be required for the road.
Yeah.
It's just a distance divided by spacing, and we'll plant those on the property as buffering.
Okay. Okay,
You can put that as a condition of approval.
so, yeah, we
Yeah.
should add, condition of approval or
Yep,
ask that it be shown on the plan. Okay.
Do you have any idea how many trees those are?
You know, I thought it was like 6 or 7.
How big's the area that they're concerned with, do you know?
Well, there were 2 neighbors that were concerned. There was this gentleman in the back now, his house is up here. This gentleman was a lot bit closer. I was thinking we'd go in this area for the most part, try and leave some vegetation back there. But this is kind of scrubby, so to speak. It's not good vegetation there. I was thinking in here.
I think the purpose from the abutters that you were just talking about, the ones on Pemberton, I think their, if I remember correctly, their concern was having the feeling that the structure itself was overlooking their backyard. So,
That's the folks on Boker.
I think it's the people on Pemberton.
Was it the Pemberton one?
There was a letter from Boker too.
I think both are, yeah.
But the first people that actually came in and were part of the
They were
hearing.
the ones next door.
Correct. And so I think if they're where you just pointed to, that would provide them some screening where it's, not so covered, dense, but it wouldn't provide them with any relief from what they were really concerned with, which was having the new structure overlooking their property. So, if there's a way to move them back a little bit to kind of screen them from seeing the structure, I think that was the spirit of what they were saying.
We'll do the best.
Again, not to make a condition, I just wanted to make sure that we understood the spirit of what the family was
Put
saying.
something in there about that, trying to screen the rear yards. Once you really, like you say, until we actually clear the trees and build the house, you're not gonna see it. And when you see it, you can go, that's a good area.
Right. Oh, I'm not, again, I'm not saying make it a condition, but I just wanted to make sure the spirit of the abutters was
Yeah, I think
noted.
we
Okay.
have the spirit, Marty. John does anyway.
Good.
And we don't have any more comments from fire department or?
Nope.
They didn't, did they comment on the driveway design or?
Yeah, originally, the
Way
fire
back.
department,
So no,
that's
no
why,
issues, okay.
I have them here
right,
somewhere.
20, yeah, well, it's gonna be 20 feet.
And we need Mr. Chairman, we need a street name request.
No,
No, I think it's on
it's gonna be
Pemberton,
the street address.
Pemberton.
Just
Street.
vote
Wait.
on the street name.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
right?
Say it again, sorry.
It's a Pemberton Street address, right?
We cleared
fit
that,
it in, Matt,
there is a
we're gonna
number.
check.
Yeah, I didn't mean to be rude.
Okay, no, that's fine,
But we
there
have-
is a
we have-
number,
We
yeah,
have house
okay.
numbers that, I think there's a blank in between, because that lot's already been shown as a lot for years.
So this is essentially.
No,
So
I
you
don't
must
I'm not
have it.
sure next to
Yeah,
one
but it's
seventy-three.
gonna be 20 foot wide with grass
Yeah, I would bet you there's a number missing because of that lot being shown
Apparatus,
on the
yeah, access.
assessors map for so many
Oh,
years,
you're right,
it's
it
a
was.
vacant lot.
Okay,
So, yeah, we were gonna give them both, well, the existing
Pemberton.
house has Pemberton, we're
Yeah.
gonna give the other one Pemberton.
okay.
Now, okay, let's go through we gotta do the waivers. Now, the waivers, and I don't have a list of them. We have a list.
You want me to read it?
Oh, you got the plan?
Plans.
Okay.
These are on the newest
I
plan.
have it here.
Waiver to allow the proposed roadway to remain private.
Okay. Yeah, I can read that.
Yeah, but you might not have the latest plan, do you, the small one?
I think that's the same one, is that August?
What, you got my Toll Brothers? Just
August 25th first, what do you have?
Should you have
August
this
24th, I think.
received,
Yes.
Yeah.
24th, yeah, we
February
have that.
23rd.
Okay.
That's received, but doesn't, I'm looking down below the date.
That is the latest.
Revised August 21st, okay. The waivers requested are a waiver to allow the proposed roadway to be private. Want to vote them one at a time or wait for all of them?
I don't think I can vote on any of this.
Okay.
Confused, is the proposed road a private or is it a
It's
driveway?
private, it's private, it's a private road.
Private,
So it's not just a Pemberton driveway.
it is,
It is a permanent address.
it's functioning
But
as,
It's Pemberton address, how can it be a private roadway?
Because it's,
it's a roadway,
It's, you've got, it's
Like-
a roadway,
like a
because,
driveway.
because you had to build the roadway, design the roadway, lay it out to give the lot frontage, so it technically is a roadway, but it's gonna look like a driveway.
is the road gonna have a name?
No,
No.
no.
So it's a
They'll have a
driveway?
mailbox or whatever
No,
they
that
put down
doesn't
at the end
mean
that says,
it's just for public safety, you don't wanna give it a name when it's, you have a Pemberton Street address.
Gotcha, okay.
That's why they wanted it.
So we're holding them to a private road standard, but it's still gonna just have the Pemberton address?
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to make sure I was clear.
We did that on one other one recently.
Baker
There's a few
Street,
of 'em.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
Jason Hockman's one on Washington Street all those years ago was like that.
yeah, you don't wanna, it makes it so much simpler. Okay, we have section 5-8 roadway request, 12 feet with the 20-foot total width with the grass pavers, correct? Section 7 of curbs, waiver requested construction of the roadway with no curbings. 4, waiver requested delete the sidewalks. 5, dimensional standards for roadway to allow paved not to have a paved cul-de-sac. 6, 3-1C9, traffic impact data and analyst. The proposed project consists of one single-family home and request a waiver from that. And 7, 4-4E, intersection request a waive to allow the street be constructed without the 30-foot roundings.
Make a note, Jack, that those 30-foot roundings are for the pavement.
Pavement, okay, the pavement.
Just be clear on that, in case someone.
Yep. Hey, you got that one, Kate? We'll make up other stuff later on tonight.
And we talked about the pavement rounding a lot, making sure we all
Have to-
know what rounding it is.
Depends where we, okay, Mike, oh, I'm sorry, what's yours? This, sorry. I did that as a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Abstain, okay. Okay. Since we're all set here, make a motion to close the hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain?
Abstain.
Okay. Make a motion to approve subdivision at 173 Pemberton Street, a 2-lot subdivision. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we have the standard conditions, and I was writing down, the other conditions. The new house will have a Pemberton Street address. There'll be a 20-foot minimum roadway with 12-foot paved. The drainage structure will be part of the bond as it is being used as part of the roadway infrastructure. No construction vehicles shall be staged on the public road. And what else do we have? You're also,
That was it, yeah.
all the trees and where we put, and that the
Yeah, street trees
street trees will be placed
as a buffer to the neighborhood.
as a buffer to the neighbors. Yeah, anything else?
Do you have a waiver for traffic impact?
Yeah, he asked that,
Okay.
that's what he asked, 'cause it was one lot, that was in number 4 or 5, I think. I think that covers it, right? Okay. Make a motion to insert the special conditions.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
Abstain.
Okay. All right.
Kate, do you note that it's a Mullen Rule abstention? I know, but it's, you just record the abstention. The what?
We erased Joe Boraski.
Hey, Rob,
We
you
erase
can
you.
tell him it's over. You can go.
See his eye, Jack?
Yeah, I know. How'd that happen? Yeah, we're still with Walpole. Yes. Johnny, what happened to your eye? Lois?
Thank you. He has allergies.
Bye,
So
Bob.
he says.
Yeah.
Good night, thank you.
Night.
Good night.
Alright.
Gotta come from the back.
Hmm?
Gotta come from the back to her.
Yeah. One thing I
Street. Sorry.
Yeah.
They don't have any safety concerns, so that's good. But I don't know where they came from. They weren't here.
What?
Pulte. Again, from police, they weren't here.
Hey, could that stuff have come in this afternoon, Amy might have brought him down for you and just put him on top?
I don't know, I didn't see them. But these are both the same thing, so, hold on, Jay.
Wish we did have the pictures of the vacation. It'd be good right now to put up. What country did you go to, Joe?
The 10 of them? Nah, 9, 10.
What was the best?
I liked Iceland and I liked Norway.
Worst?
Greenland, there's nothing
Yeah,
there.
on that. Really?
It's pulled into a port and it's like 400 people live there and there's no way out. There's more people on the ship than there are in the port.
Isn't it just a port to,
Yes, ma'am.
In this factory.
Oh.
how long are you in Iceland?
There was a 2-day layover and a return to different,
Oh, you had
other
the two?
ports.
Well, I
and
have the,
cities.
I have the.
Well, people told me that's enough time.
You could spend about 5 days there.
Sorry, I don't know where that stuff came from. Just for the police stuff? Yeah, it wasn't here when I left.
Okay. Oh, you left it 4? 3?
20 past it.
All right. Unfortunately, can't do it all the time. I have to know what happens if they end up in one of those things. Okay, we're gonna go on with the Pulte, but before we do it, High Bridge. Want to continue the hearing?
Mr. Chairman, if we could continue it for one more meeting, that
Can you come up to the mic?
would be great. Yeah, our team talked about the preliminary plan today, and we just think if we could continue it for one more meeting, that would be our request.
Okay, can we have a continuance to like Halloween?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And if you give it to us in writing, so I'll make a motion to allow us, that the applicant, acceptance of the extension up through October 31st, 2018 for High Bridge preliminary subdivision.
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, okay.
Great, thank you.
And, all right, so, the hour being after 7:30 and 7:31, we have a continued site plan 18-3 and a special permit continued 18-4. And I have some comments here, and I don't know what you guys had. You got anything new for us?
No, good evening, board members.
Other than that.
Kate and Maggie, Matt Leidner with Civil Design Group, Mark Mastriani from Pulte. So since the last meeting, we were before you on July 19th last. At that meeting, there were a couple of outstanding items that we still needed to resolve. One of them, if you'll recall, on 7/19, at that time, Conservation had closed the public hearing and voted to issue an order of conditions, but had not issued it yet, subject to a handful of remaining stormwater comments. We've since addressed those comments, and Conservation has since issued the order of conditions. And I believe, I was told that this board was given a copy of that. Or Kate, maybe Kate was given a copy.
It might be in here, okay.
And then you had also asked us to seek the approval of the Board of Selectmen with regard to the off-site traffic improvements. And we went before the Board of Selectmen on August 21st, and they approved the off-site improvements as proposed, as discussed with this board. No changes to those improvements at the 3 intersections, being the East Street site driveway, School Street, and High Plain. And they issued a letter of approval following that meeting, which I believe this board was given a copy of as well. So those were the two outstanding items that we needed to address. And then we had also talked at the last meeting about issuing a final set of plans to this board that incorporates all the commitments and comments that we had committed to addressing and whatnot in the plan set. And we did that. We submitted an updated set of plans on August 23rd. So you should have a copy of those as well. And so with that being said, we feel that we've addressed all the outstanding items and would respectfully request the board's.
Okay, you answered one of my questions, is you've incorporated, I have the order conditions, okay, so that correlates with what you said on the plan, the August 23rd plan that you've updated. And I'll read all the comments, the new comments, and like I said, from the Board of Selectmen dated September 5th. On August 21st, the Board of Selectmen met with Pulte regarding the proposed off-site improvements. After their presentation, the board voted to approve the request of Pulte Homes for their off-site street improvements on East School and High Plain as presented, and recommended both by engineering and police. So, don't get a vote on that, but unanimous? Was that vote?
It was not.
It was one no vote.
Oh, okay. All right, right here, that was our extension. And we go to here, police, September 6th, September 2nd. Oh, they're both same, okay. September 6th, from Officer Luke Pallon, I'm sorry, the traffic safety officer. I've reviewed the plans for any impact, and Walpole Police does not have any public safety concerns in relation to traffic with this case filed. I assume that also speaks to the off-site improvements as proposed. Board of Water and Sewer dated September 4th. Below are my comments previously submitted. And at their regularly scheduled meeting on June 25th, the Board of Water and Sewer met with the representatives of the above project. After discussion, and the information was provided by both the project proponent and consultants, the board voted 5-0-0 to approve sewer and water utility connections. The condition of approval, the applicant will apply for local sewer extension permits and construct the utilities as presented on the plan, and all the changes by Weston Sampson. Additionally, all water and sewer fees shall be paid to the board. You guys figure those out yet?
Water and sewer fees? Yeah.
Nice, huh? Probably worth more than you're gonna spend on building the place. Okay, from Deputy Chief Paul Barry, dated today, it's Thursday the 6th. The fire department would like to respectfully advise the board, previous submitted comments on March 14th, and they cite 527 CMR 1 NFPA 241 standard for safeguarding construction, alteration, and demolition operations shall be followed, and the owner shall designate a fire prevention program manager who will coordinate all activities with local fire departments. Okay? And I assume that comes during your plan filing and building, or when you file with the fire department. Okay.
Excuse me, can that be a condition,
Well,
a specific condition?
yeah, you can put it in there. Go on this side. Yeah, we have a letter didn't go to us, it went to the selectmen from the police supporting, so it's nothing to do with us. Planning from the ZBA, there are no comments on the above referenced matter, and there was an email regarding the selectmen's vote, and the final one, this is from Maggie to the Board of Selectmen. So that had nothing to do with us, it had to do with everything to do with all the traffic, correct? Okay, so I have no new comments, I have nothing else. You're all set, Maggie? All right. I'll stop, go this way this time. No. Sarah?
Me?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So are there any ADA units, like units designed for handicap or disabled residents?
So, I'll read Blue with Building Homes. There is a requirement on the building code
Uh-huh.
that we make a certain amount of the units that can be
Modified?
ADA accessible.
Okay.
And, we do meet that, and it's really driven by the user. So it's not that we do it all in advance,
Okay.
but it's done as folks purchase the units and decide that they would like that.
Okay.
Then we comply with that.
Okay.
As needed.
Okay. And this is not anything we require, but I'm wondering, do you have an elevation from East Street, like how it will look, a view? Is that anything that you prepared? I know that you submitted previously, like elevation, like architectural
Right.
elevations, but that's just the building. I want to
Yes.
look at the view from East Street. You didn't do that?
No, we just had the architectural package with the application.
Okay. There's a structure, property manager structure near the sewer pump station. That's an office or a residence, or what is that?
It's an office for the property management company that correct me if I misspeak, but the homeowners association that's formed will hire a property manager and to oversee the day-to-day operations on facilities. And that property management company typically assigns somebody that spends time on the site, daily or several days a week. And it's just an office, it's not a residence.
Okay. And then so several years into the project, if somebody wants to buy a new property, that's where they will go to, like an office for the project, or what's the function of that?
Yes.
So it's not really for sales, no, it wouldn't be for sales use, that would be handled through, customary local real estate brokers.
I see, okay.
But this is for the property manager.
Okay.
So, that property manager would typically be hired by the association,
Okay,
pretty early on in the project, usually the way we like to do it.
okay,
To get used to the site and understand all the buildings and the components and how it's put together and all the systems in the various buildings. And that property manager would be located in an office for the, for that individual, really.
okay,
Kind of harking back to your point or question earlier, that is handicap accessible, it's constructed that way, has a
Yeah.
handicap bathroom and access. But,
Okay.
Other than that, it's just one room with, with the restroom facility.
office space,
outside.
okay. Okay. There's an area of snow removal just west of Building 1. And that's alongside several parking spaces. Are you gonna need any signs, saying that this area must be cleared for snow, or do you need any kind of signage?
No, we designated various areas around the site, and really, it's, the way these operate is, there will be parking spaces that are not being used. Not every space is filled all the time, so they may plow spaces and push the snow up there, but there's ample snow storage, in our opinion, on this site, so we don't see the need to have people not park there just so there's an area to put snow.
Okay.
It's just one of several areas where they
Right,
can pile snow. So we didn't see the need to sign that off to somehow keep people out there doing their snow removal operation.
okay. So you've done analysis that it's not technically required, that area?
Correct.
Okay, and then just, something I noticed with font, like some issue with your font on a couple sheets. Sheet 7, 8, 16, L1.0, L1.1, where it just comes a little square. And also on your title block, on the civil design group portion, many of the sheets
Okay,
have issues.
okay. That may be a function of the reduced size print, but I can certainly take a look at that. Yep.
Okay.
I can see it on my
You see it?
copy. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then, just a question, on the landscape plan near the Kendall Street, is there a reason there's not more screening of the parking lot? I see the landscape plan around that last building, Building 4, there are some like lower landscaped, low in height landscape, but not much screening that parking lot, which is something that we encourage.
The reason that we proposed the screening the way we did is there are wooded buffers that are going to remain on both sides of the entrance out. So you're talking about Kendall Street and Building 4?
Yeah, I mean, basically, kind of screening that parking lot from view.
Right. So on either side of the entrance there, we've caught up to existing grade as fast as possible, and the limit of work line, I don't, if you're looking at the landscape sheet, you can see it on that sheet, designates the what will remain in terms of wooded area. So that part of the site's wooded currently.
Okay. Is it sufficient in height to provide any screening?
It's mature wooded area, yes.
Wooded area,
Yep.
okay. What number is the landscape plan?
L 1.0.
Okay. Towards the back, I go. You just have a note, existing wooded area to remain. Okay. Okay. And you mentioned in last meeting that the improvements are gonna be filed separately, or that they were gonna be done,
For the offsite?
yeah, the offsite
Yes.
improvements?
Yes, so, and we had submitted in one of our recent update letters to the planning board, what we tied them to various milestones in the project.
Right,
So there's 3 offsite improvements. One's at the site driveway, so that the design and bond for that would be what we proposed. This is what we also proposed to the Board of Selectmen. The design and bond would be by the building permit for Building 1, the first building.
mm-hmm,
And those improvements would be constructed by the final CO for that building, Building 1. For the other 2 intersections, so School Street and High Plain,
mm-hmm,
the design would be done and bond by the final CO for Building 1. And for School Street, the construction of those improvements would be done by the final CO for Building 3, and High Plain construction by the final CO for Building 4.
okay. And were there any changes to those designs from what you last proposed to the
No,
planning
from
board?
what we last discussed and proposed with you, and then went to the Board of Selectmen, there were no changes.
Changes, okay. So just to highlight then, if the construction of this progresses in a way that Building 4 is never completed, then the town will never get that improvement at High
Well,
Plain.
that's the purpose of the bond would be for that.
Yeah. Do you fully anticipate that all buildings will be constructed?
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
have that's the plan, and we
Yeah.
have no reason to think they won't be, but the bond would be there in the unforeseen event that a building doesn't get constructed.
Uh-huh, okay. Okay. All right, and regards to the trail, I was very happy to see that you added a pedestrian trail, or a couple trails. But I have just a couple questions on that. So do you have a detail, or do you have plans for a ramp where the trail meets the parking lot? I think this is important for residents, you know, in wheelchairs or people with strollers.
Well, in most instances, the trail, well, I guess in 2 instances, the trail meets the sidewalk, so it would meet that flush.
Right.
2 other instances, it meets the driveway, if you will.
Right, yeah.
Right. So the plan does not currently have any ramps for those areas.
Okay. I would really like to see that. I think it's important. I think, you know, for the community to really utilize this great feature, I think we need to have it more accessible. I think it's 1, 2, 3 locations, maybe. Yeah, okay. And then I didn't identify any lighting for the trails. Are you proposing any?
We're not proposing them to be something that would be used at night in the dark, no. So there's no lighting proposed along the trails.
I think that's a safety issue. I mean, if somebody were using that
Yeah, so if I may,
dusk, dawn.
you know, we've had an experience that the residents, you know, who we anticipate would be living here, you know, they're seniors, 55 plus, obviously. Occasionally, you know, there'll be single folks, who are living in the homes, and one of the reasons that they have told us that they like this type of housing that we provide, along with is that it's secure, and they feel safe inside. It is a secure building. Public is not allowed inside. You have to have a fob or covered in by one of the residents if you're a guest from the foyer. So the security concerns are something that you know, we've heard and we respond to as best we can. So relative to a trail, as trails that go near the homes, and these do circle around the back, fairly close to a couple of the homes, a couple of the buildings. And we really try not to encourage anyone to be walking on the trails after dark, because that tends to be frightening to some of the folks, frankly. So, you know, with that in mind, we generally try to keep the trails as far away from the buildings as we can. You know, we had a lot of restrictions here because of the wetlands. But walking the trails at night is just something we don't encourage, so no.
Right, I mean, I don't anticipate people, you know, going out at 3 in the morning for a walk, but, you know, dusk and dawn happens, you know, early some parts of the year, and I think for safety, I would like to see lighting along the trail.
You know, at dusk and dawn, when it starts getting darker, again, folks are, you know, I know my eyes have not gotten any better over the years, so, you know, as it gets darker, I would stick to the sidewalk where it is lit, so folks can walk, you know, they can still get out, they can still walk about, but use the sidewalks where the illumination is rather than, you know, walking around the trails in the rear, so, you know, I would just ask that you know, think very carefully about that, because, I really don't think it's a good idea to try to light those back trails.
Okay, agree to disagree. All right, and then I just was wondering if you could clarify the cross-sections, the typical cross-sections on which ones apply to which. So I'm talking about construction details, sheet 22. You've got a typical bituminous pavement detail, typical concrete sidewalk, and typical asphalt sidewalk. So if you could just explain where each type would,
Sure.
would be used?
So the bituminous pavement detail is used throughout the site for all the parking and driveways.
Okay,
The bituminous sidewalk is what we are proposing throughout the site, except for at the ramps and the flush landings, because that's hard to control the grades on those when you're working asphalt, so those are proposed to be on concrete. And there's some sidewalk along East Street, we're closing off the one driveway, one of the existing curb cuts, so that, to match existing, that would be concrete as well.
okay. And then the asphalt sidewalk would be
All throughout the
those-
site, except at ramps and landings.
You just said concrete would be used throughout the site.
Bituminous throughout the site, except for ramps and landings, which would be concrete.
Oh, so ramps and landings. Okay, and then, do you need one for the trail, typical cross-section of the trail, like, or using one of these, or how is that defined?
it's-
On the
it's-
plan, it's just like, noted trail.
Right, there's a note on the note sheet that it would be, let me go to the note here.
Yeah, I think we proposed like a bark mulch topping to the trail. So it's more of a natural, wood material, bark mulch, wood chips, something like that.
Oh, so it's not
nature.
paved?
It's not paved, no.
Ah.
There's complications because of the proximity to the wetlands.
Okay,
You're creating more impervious area,
right,
and it also, it would focus runoff, frankly, in areas that are undesirable. So by using the impervious wood material for a finish, that addresses that concern, and it also is, it's fairly simple and easy to refresh it as necessary, whenever, once or twice a year.
but it also becomes less accessible to certain residents. Like I said, like wheelchairs, strollers, grandparents, pushing strollers, it
We haven't
becomes more
experienced that, but,
difficult.
Usually as it gets used, it's, there's a gravel base to it, it's not topsoil or mud.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a solid base, it's just the top coating.
Okay. Are you near your limits to like impervious structures that you need to not pave it?
It's not so much a limit, it's the trails throughout much of where we have the trails, they're very close to the 25-foot no disturb zone. They're in a sensitive, section of the buffer zone.
Right. So has conservation seen a plan with the trails?
Yes, this was what the final plan we submitted had.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. I mean, I think the trails, fulfills what we ask for in the bylaws, for, avenues for the residents to enjoy community living and, opportunities to walk and move. But I'm disappointed that it's not gonna be paved. All right, just a question, do you have any update on the Allen House and the barn? Is it,
Well, the only update, it's not really an
those
update.
being historic structures?
Yeah, so, you can stay. So we've had no takers.
Okay,
We're under the demolition delay. It was extended from 6 months to 12 months.
okay,
So we're still in that process. We did run advertising in the paper, and we haven't had any responses, so, that's kind of where we are on it.
okay. And my last question, we had asked before about, a bus stop sign, and I didn't notice any addition to the plans. Was that something that you were gonna add, like a sign showing where the MBTA bus stop would be, or that's, you
No,
decided no?
there's a sign out there today.
There is existing sign?
There is, and
Okay,
that would remain.
but that's not shown on your plan, right? Or
It's
did I
not
miss it?
called out because it's just existing to
It's just
remain. Right.
existing, okay. It's near your gazebo area?
It's on
the
the
crosswalk?
south side of East Street by Eastover Road, on the south side of that crosswalk.
So there's nothing on the project side? There's no stop? It's only
Correct.
across the road, on the Eastover Road side?
Doesn't stop on our side?
Well, the official bus stop, I think, is on the Eastover side. I mean, the bus stops in the road, but the stop is on the other side. Well, that's where the sign is.
That would be going away from town, though. So there's no stop going into town, going towards the train station?
Correct. No, I don't believe there's a stop that direction.
Okay. That's it, thank you.
The bus stop would be by the T, so if they want them to move it, I'm sure they'd move it. 'Cause they've done that in the past.
What do you mean by the T? By the T
The
what?
MBTA. They can't get a sign, plunk it down. They can plunk it down, guys gonna go right by. It has to be the official.
But if there is a stop, I don't
Yeah.
know, I just,
What I'm
it
saying,
would be
Sarah,
nice
is
to
they
see
can,
where it is.
it would be smart for them to request to the T, let's put, instead of being, down towards Blessed Sacrament, bring it back right
Right,
in front
let's
of us.
let
which
our
they-
residents use it, yeah.
Which they'd have to do with the MBTA.
Okay.
If you're standing out there, my understanding is they will stop.
If you wave them down.
Flag down system. So right now, the current design is that you'd be on the Eastover side of the road at the bus stop sign, and when the bus is coming in either direction, I think you flag it down and it stops.
Okay, and then you have to cross the road.
You have to cross the road, and that's why we've added, the crosswalk, and we've added the beacons. And
I
we've
see.
added, certain curb cuts, and there's a little landing there too, that our traffic engineer coordinated with the MTA.
Okay. I mean, to Jack's point, if I were a resident there, I would like to have a stop close, so, I don't know, that's up to you to lobby on behalf of your residents, but that might be advisable. Okay, thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions. First one, back to the ADA requirement. Is there a certain percentage of units that's required, or is it,
I think it's 2%.
so, and you said that that you don't build it like that. If someone wants that, then,
Modifiable.
so,
They're adaptable.
yeah, and that makes perfect sense, but let me ask, if, let's say someone in the first round and you sell out and no one asks,
Right.
does that requirement go on in perpetuity? If a second owner comes in and then says, I need this to be modified a little bit, do you come in and do that? Or is after the first
You mean a resale?
a resale?
No, we would be out of the picture in a resale.
So if the 2% is not
Realized.
realized in the first round of sales, then you've met the requirement?
Well, we have, but doesn't mean that.
No, I'm just asking the question. I
Yes,
just for my own
that's the short
knowledge.
answer, but
Okay.
It doesn't mean that someone wouldn't, see.
They still could, but you're not required to come in and make the
Right, we're
the
not
changes.
required to come
Okay.
back in and change things.
Sure.
So it's, but the adaptability goes to the width of the hallways.
Sure.
The width of the doors, I mean, things that you wouldn't easily change later anyway.
Right.
And we do that throughout the entire building, not just 2%, we do it 100%.
Sure.
So these adaptability changes are throughout 100% of the units.
Gotcha.
Backing in the bathrooms for future grab bars, all the units have.
So they're all prepped and ready to go. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
They can be put in by anyone, by a seller or perhaps a
Okay.
buyer who, whether they negotiate on a resale. But that's the way it's done.
Yeah, all right. I was just curious about
Yeah,
that.
no, that's a good question.
Second thing, no elevations yet, exterior? And have you come to, because I haven't seen any, but have you come to any decisions on fascia siding, what it's gonna look like? Has anyone seen that,
Well,
or no?
just to clarify, we did submit elevations of the
okay.
buildings. The question earlier was if we had a rendering or a perspective view from East Street looking in,
Oh, okay.
which we don't. But with the original submission of this project, we submitted
All
architectural.
right, so I misunderstood you, because I just want to make sure they hadn't changed since the first time we saw them.
No.
Okay, that's fine. So that's what I had up until Sarah started talking about the trail, which I was also very happy to hear. Truth be told, I'm much less enthusiastic about it now, hearing what my thoughts of it were and what my vision of it was versus what the reality is turning out to be. That's like
To
theatrical
illustrate my
right there.
point,
That ought to tell you something.
this is not
Tells you
safe.
you're done.
And we're not even 55,
That
see?
begs the
And-
question, is there an emergency generator at this place?
So, you know, in today's world especially,
Women walking
if you
alone.
want people to use it, I think it ought to be illuminated to some point. It doesn't have to be,
Right.
it doesn't have to be, you know, Main Street, but some level of illumination so people can look out and see what's happening if something is happening. People will want to use this trail after dark. I mean, you guys have, lived here your whole lives probably, and you know it gets dark at 4:30 and in the wintertime, and fitness is bigger than it's ever been as an industry, especially in the 55 and over crowd. No one wants to get old, take it from me.
They may allow pets, which means that they have to.
It will be used if it's built to be used. It won't be used if it's built with bark mulch and no lighting. Which makes me wonder, you know, what the purpose is at all. Did you ask the Conservation Board if they would allow it to be paved? Where you show it on the plans? Was that question ever asked to
That
them?
specific question was not asked, no.
Are you opposed, other than financially, to paving it? Because I'm telling you, to Sarah's point, you know, I'm 54, and I have a 12-year-old, which means technically, in a year, I'd be eligible to live there, and I'd probably want to use it. I wouldn't want to be trying to get some exercise in, A, in the middle of the day, because I wouldn't have time, and B, I wouldn't be want to be walking around in the parking lot and on the sidewalks in front of the buildings. Just, you know, the trail serves a purpose, and it would be wonderful if it was, quite frankly, built to be used. You know, you saw all the rail lines over the last 20 years or so get converted to walking trails and whatnot. And, you know, they're used because they're minimally lit, so they're safe, where people feel safe, and they're paved. So I guess my question is there anything that we don't know that would prevent you from paving it and doing some minimal illumination so people feel a little safer out there?
Well, I know I'm not gonna bore you with reiterating what I've already said. You know, we just have feedback from the residents that they're concerned about security and people walking around the back of their homes at night. So, again, that's the main reason why we don't want to encourage, now, we want people to use the trail, but just not at night. So when it's dark, if there are illuminated sidewalks, and that's what they're for. They're for walking. And they can walk at night, all night long if they want. But, you know, as to the finish, you know, in some instances, and perhaps this is, might be somewhat of a compromise, there's a product called reprocessed asphalt, which it packs down very hard, like bituminous, because that's what it is. It's ground up, and then it's recycled. That product is more pervious than bituminous that's laid hot, and over time it does pack relatively hard, and however it's still more pervious. So
Plowable, shovelable?
yes, yeah, well, it's frozen
Person with
too,
a
and that's
wheelchair
idea.
can
But again,
safely.
typically, this is not something we would plow in the winter, a cross-country trail like that. I mean, if someone wants to use it, get exercise, maybe they're using cross-country skis. But it wouldn't be intended to be plowed, you know, kept free of snow. But we could, you know, if that's something that you feel very strongly about, you know, we could change the surface
I would want, however that product performs, I'm with Sarah on this, that I would want anyone to be able to use it if they live there, including people in wheelchairs, including people pushing a stroller because they may be visiting the grandparents or, some cases, the parents. And they would not be able to use that trail if it was not something that could handle something that is on wheels.
Yeah, I don't, we have not had any objections to anyone who couldn't use the trail that wanted to use it. That hasn't come up, even with the mulch service. I mean, the mulch is not insurmountable. It's not an obstruction. But certainly on the.
Well, it's an obstruction for a wheelchair or a stroller.
Well, it doesn't seem to be when it's used. It's not as smooth as the carpeting here or the parking lot, granted, yes. But you can traverse it, with wheels, definitely. But,
I mean, is this a financial issue? Is it simply a financial issue? Because
no, actually, I mean, I really think that the main concern that I have is the impervious nature of the bituminous.
in terms of runoff and whatnot?
Yes, right, it doesn't allow the rainwater to soak through it, and what it does is it causes erosion, frankly, in the perimeters. Because, you just don't know where the water's gonna go somewhere, and it's gonna go somewhere off the trail.
Well, again,
Slope it away from the
I'm just,
wetlands.
again, it's, you look at some of the other AQVs in town, like Riverwalk down in East Walpole, and, they put all these beautiful walking trails in, and they're all, I think aren't they block? What are they? Are they brick block, or are they concrete stamped? Anyway, they're impervious. And they're used, and
The only trail they have is the lookout going over the river.
right, but it runs all the way behind that set, all the way down. But regardless, I just don't think I don't know why I'm so hung up on it, but I am now, because I wanted to see it. And when I looked at it on the plans, I guess I didn't read it close enough, because it would have been on my list to bring it up. So I'm glad Sarah did. That will become unusable and forgotten about if it's made in the way that you're proposing, in my opinion. I'd like to see it with an impervious, minimally but safety conscious illumination if I had my way. And if I had the support, I would try to condition it, but, that's, we'll see where that goes. I don't know if we can do that, but if I could, I would. Everything else looks wonderful. I just think that, to me, that's kind of like, all right, we'll put it in there, but we really don't care. So that's just my opinion. That's all I have.
Kate?
So obviously, this isn't your first development like this, so you
Right.
probably use similar bylaws, the bylaw structure from
For the condominium
development,
association?
yes, yes.
Yes.
So my question is, and this is probably a foolish question for you to hear, but,
No such thing.
is it mandated in the bylaws that there is a property manager at all times? Not a property manager present, but what I'm trying to say is, it costs to have a property manager. So let's say the association decided, there was a majority that said, we don't wanna pay for a property manager, we'll just wing it on our own, like some small condo associations do. Is it mandated in there that they have one? Because on a development this size, I would think it would be important.
I agree with you, your last statement, I mean, it is important, and we do that. As far as mandating that, no, we don't mandate it, but what we do, I mean, so first of all, stepping back, the big picture, it's home ownership, right? I mean,
Right.
it's a condominium, it's home ownership, it's not an apartment, it's not rental. So the folks that live there, they all own part of the property, right? They own, in 186 units, they'll own this undivided 186th of the land and all of the common areas. So we set up the structure of the condominium association to own and operate that property efficiently. And on all of our occasions, it has never this case, I don't have any, qualms that might happen here, if that's a concern of yours. I cannot see that happening for a couple of reasons. One is it's an over 55 community, so folks in that stage of their lives, frankly, they don't wanna take on more effort and more work for doing, outside chores and even managing outside chores being done. One of the main reasons they buy in our communities is it's simple and easy and they have less to worry about, not more to worry about. So I think from a demographic perspective, I wouldn't expect to see that at all. The other perspective is getting 186 people, and that's the unit, so you probably, some have 2 people live in a unit, so you have a number of people that you have to get to all agree on self-management. And again, I think that is, virtually impossible with that group of people. The other thing that we do when we start off is we will hire, after we have the first building built, we don't wait till the end, but right off the bat, when folks are living there, we will hire a property manager, a third-party property management company, not one of us, not someone that's an employee or a staffer of Pulte Homes. It'll be an outside company. And we do that for a number of reasons, but first and foremost, it's to get them used to the property and to set up this operation that will be turned over at a certain point to the residents. And we get it all structured, we get all the landscapers identified, the snowplow folks identified, the insurance companies identified, the groups that are gonna handle the HVAC units in the buildings. Those people are all identified and trained several years before the homeowners have to take over. And every year we do a budget, and that budget includes the costs of, obviously, all these vendors and workers and their contracts, but it also includes the cost of the property management company. And again, we get them in early, we get them used to the property, and our experience is it works very well. It's kind of a seamless transition, because it's really only the board of directors that changes hands when there's a transition. And the property manager stays in place, the budget has already been created, folks already know what they're paying every month, because we set that in the beginning, and our goal is for it not to change. Now, every once in a while, it goes up 2-3% or something like that, just like inflation does, but generally, it stays very static. And that's important to us, because we know it's important to our homeowners. So we set it all up that way so it'll run smoothly. That's our goal.
You sort of hit one of my other questions. So, how long are you involved? So as soon as that unit is purchased, you're sort of gone for that unit, and then the property manager is the person they go to. You are no longer involved, correct?
Well, okay, so there's 2 stages. If you're talking about just on a particular unit, we have, Pulte Homes has a 10-year limited warranty on the building. So you'd have, so there's an extensive homeowner warranty. Pulte does have staff folks who are company employees that are the customer service department. And then in a site like this, we'll start off probably sharing with another community, but by the time the first building is occupied, there'll be a full-time person there. He'll be assigned to the customer service, warranty, that's what he does. So he takes care of the warranty calls, and as it gets completed, there might even be 2 people there. And that goes on, there's the 100% warranty for 1 year, and there's a 2-year warranty for all plumbing and HVAC systems. And as I say, the 10-year warranty goes out for the structural members of the building. So warranty is very important, and customer service is very important to us as a company. And that's why, frankly, we're successful, and people, we've been here for over 25 years here, in this neck of the woods, and our reputation is the reason that we've been here that long, and we hope to be here for, 25 more. The second piece of I don't know if this was a question or not, but as to the project as a whole, our involvement is essentially through the whole construction component. So the 186 unit, the 4 buildings, they would have to be all built, we'll be involved right up through that time frame, managing the site, and once we complete the infrastructure work, typically, even if the last building is sold and fully occupied, there's work to do outside. There may be top coating on some of the roads, there may be landscaping that wasn't put in because of the time of year, there may be, things such as that need to be done. So we're still involved up through and a little while after, maybe a season or so after the last home has been sold and they have moved in. And then after that, as I say, it really transitions from the construction end to the customer service end. And I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you. Do you have any owner occupancy restriction so that people can't rent them?
Well, so we've considered that. And where we've come down on that question is, again, it's a home ownership community. So folks own their own home, just like, you do, I do, folks in this room do. And we try to allow them the flexibility that they would have in their home relative to rentals. So they're not restricted from renting. They can rent, just like I could rent my home if I wanted to. However, there's also, because this is an age-qualified village, there are restrictions in there, right? There's restrictions as to age. So they must maintain, if they rent, they must, we have a stipulation that it cannot be any less than a 6-month term. So it can't be like a B&B or a week-to-week thing or anything. It has to be a minimum of 6 months. And any lease has to have certain language that we call out in the condominium documents as to the age qualification of the residents. So that language that is in the zoning, that is in the Housing for Older Persons Act, the HOP Act, Federal Act, that we mirror that in our condominium documents, and then we take the section on that and we require that to be in any lease. So.
If they don't occupy it, are they required to have a lease?
Yes.
They are?
Yes, you have
Okay.
to have a lease, and it has to be registered with the property management company. So the property manager would know whether it's, owner occupied, the Smiths or the Joneses or whomever, or maybe they've gone on an extended world cruise, lucky them. And, they lease their place out for 6 months or 12 months or something like that. Or, maybe they move for a period of time. Maybe they're helping out their kids, or they just had a grandchild in California, or, all these things can happen, and
Right.
I'm sure we can all imagine them, but again, we try to maintain the flexibility so folks can essentially, live their life and do what they would be able to do in a home that they own, but underlying all of that, they have to comply with the requirements of the condominium association. In this case, the age qualification is very important.
All set? Joe?
Thank you. I don't have a vote here because we don't have the Mullen Rule, and I missed a meeting, the July 19th meeting, I believe. So you, I guess, need the unanimous vote of the remaining 4 in order to get your special permit. But I can participate in questions, and I can recommend conditions. And one of the major issues that I have after having watched the July 19th meeting online on tape is what has raised to some degree by the deputy fire chief. He indicated earlier that he wants the Massachusetts Comprehensive Fire Safety Code and the NFPA standard for safeguarding construction, alteration, and demolition operations to be followed. And I looked at those sections because those sections came up in previous development applications, Corcoran and Liberty, and fire is a big concern of mine. So one of the, and I think obviously for you people too, because of the Weymouth project, you had a huge fire and a lot of press on that. And there were other fires up in Waltham and I think in Lynn and Boston. So this, when you start to get into this now construction, Last year and earlier this year, there were a lot of fires about these condominium complexes. So I want to get your reaction to this because I would love to, while I think the deputy fire chief, and I'm very happy about our fire leadership team. I think it's terrific. I think that I want to specifically indicate that while I agree with the fire chief on what he wants in terms of following those protocols are very elaborate. But there are some protocols that I want specifically conditioned, and those are, the protocols will include but are not limited to an on-site security guard to monitor the construction site after workers leave the project site, cameras and construction fencing around the unoccupied buildings. No security guards, cameras, or construction fencing will be removed from the project site until the sprinkler systems have been activated. A fire prevention officer will be identified and required to conduct inspections at the building site to address key safety measures such as the removal of hazardous burnable debris and to communicate with local public safety authorities. Now, I'm not smart enough to make this up myself. This all came from lessons learned from all the previous fires that occurred while some of these buildings were being built up on the North Shore and in South Shore in the Weymouth, in your Weymouth project. And there were criticisms between city councilors and mayors as to who was at fault. I've got tons of documents, newspaper clippings, editorials where the public criticized planning boards for not, being more specific and direct about fire protocols. So I'd like to get your reaction to that. I hope that you agree to it fully and that, you agree that it should be in the conditions.
Well, you've covered a lot of things just now. So what I can say is I don't know the details of some of those things you rattled off that the fire chief had mentioned. But I certainly do know that we don't want to have any fires on any of our sites, and that we are going to comply with whatever the requirements and regulations are relative to the NFPA and any associated laws, rules, regulations relative to that.
It sort of came up at the July 17th meeting and July 19th meeting, and watching it, I saw Matt's response, and he said, well, there's a hydrant out front. And I was, wait a minute, there may be a hydrant out front, but this is a very dense area, it's a well-traveled area, a lot of traffic, a lot of children, and I just want to make sure that these types of things are taken into consideration and specifically mentioned so that we don't run into a problem later on. So it's nothing more than repeating some of the important items that are in the Mass Fire Code, Comprehensive Fire Safety Code, and also in the NFP version as well. So is this, by the way, is this building a non-smoking building?
So, not to kind of bore the board with some of my past remarks, I'll sort of summarize. We just as any of us in our own homes could smoke, then folks in these units are not restricted from smoking or basically doing anything you could do in your own home.
Right.
So there's not a restriction in that regard. However, having said that, in the common areas, they are restricted. So hallways, elevators, things of that nature.
Some of the advertisements for other over 55 AQVs in other areas by some of the other developers, they advertise that they're non-smoking units, all of them, that's a non-smoking building. So I didn't know what direction you were going in. So basically, you're leaving it up to the unit owners to determine whether or not they want to smoke or not inside their own units.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about grills, candles, and fires on decks? Are they all prohibited or allowed?
Well, fires on decks are not allowed. Gas grills on decks are not allowed. candles are not regulated. Similar to a candle in your home.
Right.
We don't.
So are they
regulate that.
specifically listed in the master deed or some type of bylaw regulation? Is that
Yes.
prohibition in the master deed?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's state law,
It's
too.
a state law.
Is it?
Building
Yeah.
code.
But that way you can at least remind the tenants when, or the owners when they're doing it, hey, stupid.
All right, so that's that on fire. Now I want to take on to something that Katie brought up to some degree, and that's leasing restrictions. I went over the master deed, and on page 7, the only leasing restriction that I saw was the one that indicated that all leases or rental agreements for units shall be in writing and of a minimum duration of 12 months, and shall comply with the age restriction requirements set forth in section 9C. That sort of put it out there. But one of the things that I am concerned about is I get this from, not that I own a condominium, but I get this condominium magazine. And one of the hot issues on is short-term rentals. And it's a hot button issue, and it's all about Airbnb. And the vast majority of associations and other common interest communities will not permit them, and the basic leasing and or subleasing rules and requirements pretty much prohibit them in order of type of housing. And the reason is because Airbnb is a bigger and bigger issue for both apartment and condominiums. It's transient housing, raised significant security concerns, behavioral concerns. They have more complaints about people using their units for nightly rentals. And then there's I've got this whole thing about all the security issues and the problems with respect to Airbnb. You don't really specifically talk about these short-term rentals. I couldn't find it in the master deed anywhere. Could you point that out?
You say 12 months, right?
Yeah.
It says 12 months, but it doesn't specifically say, and here's the reason. It's a significant, according to this document, it's a significant issue, and most documents, meaning master deeds, have some prohibition on this. We recently had a case where the court found that a restriction on short-term leases did not prohibit Airbnb because of the way the rule was drafted. It's not a sublet, it's transient housing, and you must have a specific provision in your documents prohibiting that. Many of our clients, and this is a client newspaper for people who run condos and apartments, many of our clients are adopting specific prohibitions against Airbnb that include a provision against advertising on Airbnb with specific fines for those caught doing so. Now, what I'm concerned about is, our situation, Walpole's particular situation, especially as we have more and more of these AQVs seem to be coming online, and the fact that you could get snowbirds heading to Florida, and also that you've got the craft complex and all sorts of wonderful entertainment that comes in from time to time, including in a couple of more years, the FIFA soccer tournaments. But, that's stuff that we will have to deal with. You'll be long gone. So should we have something specifically about short-term rentals in the master deeds?
So you bring up a good point. This is frankly, it's not something that, has come to the forefront in any of our other communities. However, our intent, and I thought it was pretty clear that the minimum term for any rental or lease was 12 months. I mean, I said 6 before, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought it up and corrected me. It's actually 12. So clearly, our intent, our goal is not to have anyone staying there, on a business basis rather than guests and family members, et cetera, but on a rental basis for less than 12 months. And I'm happy to bring it back to our legal team and ask them some of the questions you brought up relative to, do we shorter-term rentals, to make sure that people don't, make sure that people understand that 12 months is the minimum term, so 12 hours is less than 12 months.
Right.
It's not 12, it's not allowed.
Right.
12 days is less than 12 months, it's not allowed.
Right, one of the examples
12
that were.
weeks is not allowed.
Yeah, one of the examples that was in here was a problem in Wellesley regarding someone who advertised and used their home for Airbnb, and, you know, eventually the police were down and the neighbors, you know, it was a big to-do, a big problem. And, you know, I can share what I have with you. I'd be more than happy to give you what I have, and you can take that back and, you know, use it as a basis for the discussion with your legal team.
The problem with Airbnb is it's almost impossible to stop. And the reason is because it's not a lease. It's not a rental. The way it's done is, for people that wanna do it and know they're not supposed to, even if it's written into their bylaws or their deed, is that, it's being run as a guest in your home. Hey, the key's under the mat, go in, make yourself at home. Little parenthesis, leave the check on the counter. And that's the way Airbnb works, and that's why it's so hard to regulate and so hard to stop, quite frankly. I'm not saying, and the way it does get stopped is after the fact. So if you have a neighbor that knows that you don't know this person, then they would talk to the management company, and then the management company would deal with and apply any penalties that they may have put in prior to, but it's almost
Right.
impossible to stop beforehand. Because it's so easy to say it's a guest, a friend, a relative, doesn't, you know?
Yeah.
You lie, I'll swear to it, and that's why Airbnb is successful right now.
All of what you mentioned is in these.
Yeah, so it's
and-
very
and-
hard to
and-
stop.
And, you know, you're gonna get some of that, and you're gonna get some people who are gonna try to violate, you know, certain provisions of master deeds or agreements or whatever, so. But I think it's something worthwhile bringing back to legal, and I think, to the extent that you can address it, I'd appreciate it.
I mean, that's a good point. I would just, you know, maybe restate the fact that our particular buildings are a little more difficult to get into than leaving a key under the mat, because they're secure buildings. You have to actually have the fob so you can get in the door. So the
Oh, yeah, no, I understand that. I was using that as a,
No, and you're
you know,
right.
just as an example,
Just-
but.
Just maybe for Joe's, peace of mind, if that's possible, is to say that, you know, our whole design of the buildings is, you know, for enhanced security. So if someone was going to try to subvert the rules and conduct a handoff, they'd effectively have to meet with the
Sure.
Airbnb person and physically give them the fob, and then, you know, they wouldn't be able to get back in until they got it back, and, so it's a concern of ours and a focus of ours, and that's clearly not our intent, not to allow that short-term usage, and, you know, we'll do what we can to.
Okay. In addition to that, at this July meeting, it was mentioned that with respect to security cameras and security, that what happens is I think what Matt said was, done in the past when the need arises, you might hire an independent property manager and then make a determination as to how much security is necessary as you go forward. I'm not so sure I agree with that. I would love to see some type of security before, while the people are moving into this building. And again, chock full of safety and security issues in this publication. And they highly recommend, now, and I understand, you know, security forces are very expensive, you know, especially if it's a 24-hour security force, but, you know, as Sarah mentioned about the nighttime and whatever, it seems like a security force at night would be something that would be, at least at night, would be something that would be beneficial, and also security cameras. So to that extent, if you could include them in the plan, I'd appreciate it.
Well,
Well, yeah, each one
I'm just
of
gonna,
our-
I gotta stop. We can't, we're doing site plan especially, we can't enforce security people. That's beyond us.
No, not at all?
No.
Not even the security cameras?
Well,
We did it with Corcoran.
Well, you can have, yeah, with the Cochran, cameras, that's a given, I don't disagree with that, but having a security, can't force these people, that's beyond. And the reason we want security cameras is for the police, right, so they can see it. You guys got security cameras at the entrances and stuff?
Each one of the foyers is equipped with a camera
That's,
system?
yeah, so that when you come in with your fob, they see you.
Well, so the foyer, just to be clear, the foyer is open to the public,
Okay,
and that's where the mail drop is, and then there's a second set of doors that are secure, and that
Okay.
requires the fob.
so you have the cameras,
But there's that's where the camera is, that's right, and there's also a system of, an intercom system, for lack of another term, where a guest, or the pizza boy, or whatever, pizza person, can come in and punch in the number of the home, and the person, if they're home, they'll hear it, and they'll say, they can look on their readout, and they can see who's standing there. The camera will show them the person, and they can talk back and forth.
okay,
And then if they want, they can buzz them in.
okay, and along, I'm talking about, I know what Joe's driving at, and gets me to another point, is, do you guys offer like ADT to your people as an option?
Yes.
All right, so it's up to the individual.
Short answer is yes.
So you got, coming in, you get for your common area,
Yep.
and each unit's gonna have their own,
If they-
if they choose,
Yes.
okay.
And it could be a variety, it could be any security system that
Yeah.
that the owner wants to purchase.
No exterior cameras at all? Parking lot, common areas?
Typically, no, not unless necessary. I mean, we have a number of these types of communities around, we built quite a few, and, unless there's something about this location that I'm not aware of, we
We're
don't,
selling it good for you tonight.
we really don't think
You're gonna
it's,
have firemen, you're gonna have police, and you're gonna have nobody in there, except Airbnbs.
I'm not saying you should, I was just curious if
no,
you did.
we don't see the need, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, we think it's a great location.
Dangerous,
We think
Walpole.
proximity to town, proximity to police and fire. I mean, you couldn't get a better spot for an age-qualified village as far as we're concerned. It's a great location.
As far as the guy that breaks into the cars is concerned, too. Couldn't find a better location, right on the bus line.
Where's the real water in our town? The not good.
It was
But,
right
no,
by
we
School
have-
Street,
we have,
right?
We've been very
Those
fortunate.
break-ins.
2 exits,
And frankly, the
No
people
lights.
that live there are self-policing. I mean, folks are very keen on what's going on in their property, and they keep a good eye on it, and they tell something. So, again, we don't really, we don't anticipate a lot of that, but if issues happen, something will be done to respond to that.
I know you guys, this is your business, so you obviously are working with much more of a data set than I have. But I do know in all the different publications that I read, that entry and exit cameras to the parking lots have proven very beneficial over the years for parking lot thefts. So no one watches the cameras. The only time any of that data is pulled up is after something happens, but at least they can see, all right, who's driving out of here that doesn't belong here. But again, you guys know more than I do about that, but, it seems like the parking lots would be more worrisome for me in the middle of the night than it would someone getting into the foyer,
Yeah, no, it's definitely an option that can be, readily installed if the need arises, but as a.
Yeah, just forensically, it's not something that, someone's watching it and, oh, there's someone in the
No,
parking lot, we're gonna go get it.
Yeah, right, it's stored in the cloud
Right.
somewhere, and you get.
Then if you
whatever
need it,
got,
you get
7
it.
days,
Yeah.
and then it rewrites, so you
Right.
can go back and find it out, so it's pretty, relatively simple technology to install if need be.
Right.
Now, there's no clubhouse anywhere in this complex?
Correct,
There's no meeting rooms in any of the buildings?
correct.
So, where does when they have a meeting and they want to discuss, the board meeting, where do they go?
Local,
Comrades.
assembly area, maybe they go to church, a couple doors down,
Napper
maybe they come here, maybe they go to the library,
Maybe they can reopen TDs.
any place, again, with all these services within a mile, there's a lot of options.
Now, you do have a clubhouse in one of your other, on Riverside. Where's Riverside? Is that up in
It's in Andover.
Andover? So why did you go with the clubhouse in Riverside but not in this particular project?
You know, it's
Any-
a function of condominium dues, frankly.
Mhm.
So, you know, building a clubhouse is a one-time expense, the developer pays for that, and it's covered by the project cost. But the ongoing maintenance and running of the clubhouse, the overhead costs, that all has to be borne forever by all the residents who live in the community. And typically, our goal is to keep the condominium fees as reasonable as possible. So we try not to make them too high. And given a community this size, 186 units, it's really on the small side for being able to afford the cost of a clubhouse.
Is Riverside bigger than this?
It is bigger.
Substantially bigger?
I'm sorry?
Substantially bigger?
Not substantially, it's 200 units, but you know, as Mark was just reminding me, up there, the age restriction is higher than 55, so there's more services involved for the healthcare for the folks and for visiting nurses and things like that. So it was decided to establish a building for that.
Okay, so you're under a demolition delay on the Allen House, and Sarah brought that up.
Right.
Is the Allen House in such condition that it is impossible to save,
Yeah,
even as a clubhouse or a meeting house, or any part or portion of it cannot be saved?
that place is a mess.
So it's,
I'm shocked that people work in there on a day-to-day basis. I mean, I'm not, I can't say anything more about it, but I wouldn't have any in there.
That's been their style forever.
okay, and I only have one more question. In terms of the cleanup of the property, has it all been completed? And do you have some type of certificate from the Commonwealth saying that buildings can be built, or where do we stand there?
So the cleanup has been complete, well, so it's multiple stage, maybe to clarify. The majority of the past, order that was on the site, that has been on the site with the current owners, had to do with groundwater issues. Those groundwater issues have been cleaned up. There is a report that hasn't been published yet, but it's in the process of being written. And one of our requirements before we close on the property is for that report to be completed and accepted. So that will be done prior to our commencement of construction. The other step of cleanup will be cleanup that we take on, and that will be associated with the buildings there. So there will be an abatement process, which will be one of the first things that we do once we take title. And all of the buildings that are there that have any materials in them, hazardous materials that need to be abated, we will take care of doing that, and naturally be done under close scrutiny and in accord with laws, rules, and regulations for that. And that all must be done before we can do any demolition of any of the structures there.
Okay.
So that's my best answer.
And I just want to make the comment that in the past, I've greatly appreciated your traffic consultant and the cooperation that Pulte extended the town with respect to the mitigation of the various sites that the selectmen agreed upon. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. That's good to hear.
Thank you.
Okay, you'll be back up right now. All right, I'll start with the trails. After listening to everything, I'm not a big fan of mulch for a number of reasons, because the stuff, you gotta use it every year. And the other thing, it is very flammable, as we know. Matter of fact, I had mine in my own yard, come home and it was smoking. Not a very good thing. I support the millings. okay? Like, and it works very well. That's what you're talking about. It's the asphalt. I've used them myself. They're very, they don't ever come up again. A lot of people use those for driveways. You never even know that. I support that. The other thing is the lights. We use them down at my house, the solar lights, just stick them in the ground. I think that's all you're looking for.
Something, yeah, some
Just-
minimal lighting along the path.
Along the
that
path, I think that's, I
feel-
understand, as soon as you start talking about it, I'm thinking, Sarah, that's exactly what, little solar lights, you might have in your garden, I got them around my flagpole. You just stick them in, and it just, when people are walking, it gives them a feeling where they are, I don't think you're looking for this now.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't think, like I said, we don't want to encourage people, midnight strolls, but in those times where it's dark enough to be dangerous, we should provide that safety.
You like that?
Yes, sir, I think we can do that.
Okay, I like that, it looks nice too. It's a low key if you wanna go out at night, and the millings too. The other thing is, your maintenance, you won't have to continually remulching the stuff, because we know after a couple of years, it turns to dirt. And so, that's one thing that I get 3 people want it, and I don't know how the rest feel, but if we do that. And the next item would be for, I'm trying to go on what Katie was bringing out. And I know the docks, you guys, it can be changed on a vote by condominium association anytime, right? They all get together and you can change anything you want.
Yes, I think it's a requirement of 75%, a minimum of 75%.
Yeah, but it has to be recorded at the registry of deeds, or else it doesn't alter the deed.
Yeah, but they can do anything they wanna do afterwards. But, the one thing, when do you guys abandon, cause you guys start the condominium association, when do you guys get off the board?
At the end, when we sell the last unit, typically.
Last unit,
Yeah,
okay.
that's our preference. So we're there throughout the entire construction process. That's usually when most of the, questions, issues come up, that something, so we wanna be able to finish.
Okay, so that would,
The only caveat I would say is that occasionally, we found in the past, although it's changed, to the better now, but occasionally in the past, one of the mortgage lenders, like Fannie Mae, a secondary mortgage market lender, or Freddie Mac, VA, those folks, have, said in the past that it needs to be turned over at 75%. So, I would say that right now it's 100%, in the past it had been 75, so it could always go back to 75, so it's in that range.
yeah, having been on one, you don't wanna be on one. It's no fun, a lot of liabilities. But with that, it ties me into something else. One of the conditions I'm gonna want, we should be putting in here that, and this is where it gets not sticky, but that the site plan must be 100% complete, and all off-site improvements must be 100% complete before the final occupancy permit.
So, my only question or caveat,
Well, here's where I'm going with this. What do we have on you if it's not done? That's where we have nothing left. It's not like I'm bonding a subdivision road.
The off-site improvements are all bonded.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, if they haven't finished the roads, they get stuff not done on their own site. They haven't put the trail in like we wanted. If they get the final occupancy, you could say here, you'll never do it, that's fine, but.
so the way I respond to that is this way. First, the issue that typically comes up, that I can imagine come up, is going to be time of year. So if the final folks move in December, then then we can't be finishing up any landscaping that may not be done, or any paving that may not be done, cannot be done till the following spring.
But we're not, okay.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Well, I do this for business too, and I understand the seasons, but we're not talking about one house and grass. We're talking, you're gonna have one final building with 30 units. I would expect when the last guy signs off, that thing has been done. Unless you get a rush of selling out a whole building within a week, I would expect that whole building, the parking and everything else, all to be 100% complete, even if you're doing it in December or January or the winter. Would that be a fair statement? Well, let's put it this way, if you have 4 units left in November, you'll be pushing the landscape and everything else to be done so that you can sell them over the winter, so you're out of there come spring.
Oh, absolutely.
But my point is, how am I, as a town, gonna hold you guys here to make sure everything gets done?
You know, I don't.
We don't do
I
bonds
don't
for
know-
site plan.
I don't know that. So our obligation is to the homeowners and the residents here that we sell the community to. They have a much higher focus
Oh,
on
I
getting
understand.
us to complete, and we have a much, frankly, a much stronger obligation to them to do what we promised to do for them. We're not going to not finish that up.
But my point, there's gonna be
I know
certain.
what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give an example, like the Walpole Mall had their fence fall. It took them another time to come in and have another site plan for us to get it back. That stuff just didn't get, certain things just don't get overlooked, or just forever. What is, now, your homeowners probably care less of what the gate lock mechanism is, whether it's working or not, but we do. There are certain things that we're gonna care about that the homeowners aren't, or aren't even gonna look at. That's my point.
Jack, do you want to raise that question with town council, and they can raise that question with their legal people, and maybe come to some,
Well,
What are you proposing?
well, before the final occupancy permit is the entire site is done, checked off.
Before the final occupancy permit?
'Cause
Of the building,
Including
of
the
the last
off-site work?
building?
Yeah, everything, yeah.
The street improvements, the offsite.
Yeah, why, they would need to be done at that time, that would be my guess.
Well, that's what they agreed to, the,
So, how about this then? What if we write an either or? So, your suggestion can be the requirement for the
Yep.
final unit occupancy permit.
Yep.
Not for the whole building, for the last unit, correct?
Yeah, you got 186 units, and that, we hold you to that one.
Okay, so we can get COs and sell 185.
Because what I'm concerned about, very simple, is after you sell that last one,
No, I understand.
you're
but
gone.
that's-
You have no financial interest left, per se.
I
We do have that in
disagree with you there, but that's okay.
Well,
It's
I-
a different perspective.
Sit in,
No, I understand.
trust me, but let's put it in writing. It's just like
Other
in our
people have
subdivision
done it.
control, we do have a thing that you're not supposed to give an occupancy permit on any house in there until the binder is down and the streetlights are on. For the simple reason is you want your people safe. Here, it's for our protection, that the site plan gets done. You know, do I care if your bush is dead or not? Not really, but do I care that the entrance is done right and married into us, everything that will affect us? Yes.
So maybe you could clarify what you care about, like you just said.
Everything on the site plan that we approved.
Okay, well,
Including the
you just
offsite
said
work.
dead bush, I mean, that happens a lot, as I'm sure you know.
Well, yeah, I understand that, someone's gonna,
So
if this wasn't on
Not a
TV, I'd
town
tell you
site.
anyway, but I don't, there's nobody I ever seen here go out there and write down on a punch list, there's a dead bush.
Oh, yes, they do that to me.
Well,
All the residents.
Oh, the residents will, but, you know, someone from the
Not the town.
town's just gonna go through there 30 miles an hour, and goes, "Psst, looks great. But my point is, you know, we can't have a pile of dirt, we need to get it all
road
done.
not done.
Yeah, the road not done, striped, signs up and all that. And 1 out of 186, let's not ask.
do you,
So my either or, my ask was gonna be that, or a bond instead, for the amount of any work left undone.
Prior to the final occupancy.
Yes,
That works.
so we
Who's
can just do
gonna
an
hold the
either
bond,
or.
though?
That's
We will.
On the site plan?
Yeah, they'll give us a
special
bond.
permit.
Bond a site plan.
But they can give us a bond.
So we're not intending to do that, just
But they
to
can give us a
clarify.
bond.
Can you
But
do a
it's just
bond on
an
the special
either or.
permit?
Some unknown condition, unforeseen condition
sure.
comes up and it becomes, at our option, we say, gee, you know, we've got, you know, $20,000 worth of paving to put in. Or this, gate lock was back ordered and it's $5,000. If we can trade off the bond for that amount, if it's the last thing, whatever's last has to be done for some reason, and I don't anticipate it happening, I'm trying to
We only
have
allowed
a
to bond certain
option,
items.
that's all. So,
No,
the CO as a requirement or a compensatory, surety bond.
we can do the bond, but they would have to give us within the bond that would allow the town, in the event that you default, we have the right to go in and finish,
Yes, sure.
right?
Does this board have some kind of Mass General Law authority that allows you to hold a bond on a site plan? It's not a subdivision,
There is
I
no
don't
Mass
know.
there is no Mass General laws on site plan, they don't exist,
Okay.
so.
You know, again, I don't intend to go that way.
What I don't,
Just
well,
try not to.
I also wouldn't expect, if you got one unit left, I expect the whole thing to be done.
I agree
And
with
that
you too.
you guys have already been gone for a couple months, because if they're one unit, you're not hanging out there.
Yeah, there's always stuff to do. That's all. I'm not trying to,
I understand.
I'm not trying to argue. I just wanted to agree, hopefully, and, you know, you've all been very cooperative and I appreciate that. And, you know, other folks in town have too. And, you know, we've tried to reciprocate, you know, as we could too, and agree to things that were of interest. And I don't want, you know, this to hold us up.
Okay, so if it said, we'll give a bond prior to, for uncompleted work prior to the issuance of the final CO last unit.
Yes.
Well, option for
An
that,
option for that.
option
if,
for that.
You know, either the CO is held
Or
or the
hold
bond is replaced.
CO, okay. That can be down the road, I mean, however it gets
That'll be
worked
down
out.
the road,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, that's as long as, gotta protect the town, okay. Joe had brought up about construction fencing, and that's gonna get me into my phasing, and I'm looking at your phasing, and I know you submitted something, unfortunately, I don't have it in front of me. On your plans, I would expect at least to see construction fencing on, like, to add it to each phase, so someone knows. An issue?
Construction fencing around the unit under construction.
Well, I also assume that you're gonna put it across East Street when you're starting down, you know, a few, enough feet inside, like you have to do for your insurance, and then once you start, you're gonna have it around the units. And the construction fencing is, in my estimation, is once you start, if you own the whole site, as long as no one can get in, you've done your job. But once you start having people in, let's say the first unit, you wanna have it so that there's fencing to keep them out. So every unit, every time you do a phase, you gotta have, and I'm gonna,
We'll move it around.
Moving, yes.
Yeah,
and
to
the-
separate the residents from the construction.
correct, or the public, residents, however you wanna
Or
call
the
it.
public, right. Yes, it's.
Are you going start to finish on each of these phases? Like, you're not gonna
Well-
start phase 3, you're not gonna pour the foundation for stage 3 until, part 2 is finished?
They'll be running
So they'll be
concurrently.
concurrently, so
They'll be running,
Can-
parts of all
yeah.
phases could be
at the same
operating
time.
at the same time.
Yeah, so that was because of what you just said.
It's relatively
So you wouldn't
small
necessarily be moving it around, because you would have to theoretically be fencing off 3 different sections if you're working on 3. Even though you're still completing phase 1, you might be pouring foundations in phase 2 and 3.
That's right, yeah.
So we would
We'll
want,
have to-
yeah,
But the way it's
Cordon
scheduled,
off
you can fence this part.
occupied
right
areas.
here.
yeah, you can just not let people
Yeah.
pass that certain
Yeah.
area.
Move
Yeah,
around,
yeah, okay,
Yeah, movable construction fence.
yeah.
Based on past experience and prior developments, what do you think is a educated timeline from the time you start construction to the time you finish?
Well, I mean, our target is to do at least a building a year. And I'm hoping they will be much more desirable than that, so we can get done in, say, 3 years.
Okay.
That's my goal.
Now, continue on the other thing I'd like, these are, I'm gonna put in the, special conditions that put on the plan prior to endorsement, so put the phasing plan with the construction fence, and also on the phasing plan, I'm looking at, it looks pretty in all these little dots, and at first I'm looking to see, is that final paving, is that, binder? Could you put on the phasing, on the parking, what it's going to be? This is gonna be important, only because when the building inspector goes out, or someone from here goes out, they wanna make sure that, that everything here, and I know the phasing, which, phase 1, you'll probably have to go right to,
Well, we
Full
want to keep a
finish.
binder as long as we can because of the truck traffic, obviously.
if I'm buying a unit in there, I'm not parking on binder.
Well, I mean, that happens. They do. park
They
on
do?
binder.
Do you get a discount?
No, but we put it
On their
in.
mortgage?
In fact, you know, that, rather than having a finish coat in there for the first building that's
I know.
traveled over.
It's gonna get beat on.
Many, many times by all the heavy construction vehicles, so building 2, building 3, building 4. The residents actually prefer that we
The
do
binder.
the final coat after the majority of all that heavy construction is done. You know, maybe the last building will be constructed, but the concrete trucks will be out of there, and the sheet rock trucks will be out of there,
Yep.
it's heavy ones.
On your phase, and then at least show binder as you move on,
Sure, yeah.
okay?
We should have we should have, after phase 1, we should have the construction trucks go in the back door.
Well,
One come in Kendall
Can't
Street.
do that.
No, you don't.
Push it off on Kendall.
Wake up the,
Kendall Street is a tough
Yeah,
area.
yeah,
it's
you wake
tough.
up, you wake up the
That's why
neighbors.
it's gated.
And we talked about the millings and the lights, that you will be a special condition, will be put on the plan.
Yes.
That will be specified on the plan, yes.
Jack, that's smooth enough that,
Millings, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's, you know, when they do the millings, and you spread those out, and what happens, especially when the sun hits, it just gets hard as a rock. It's,
it doesn't take 5 years, it's,
no, as soon as it just kind of melts in together, and if they
Okay.
roll it a couple times, it's pretty good stuff.
okay.
I mean, they use it a lot on the highways instead of the rocks or even the sand. It's, when I was out in the Mass Pike, it's tough. I couldn't even get it out with a loader. You had to get a backhoe to dig it out, because it just melts back together.
Meshes together.
Yeah.
Okay,
Nice
that's
stuff.
fine.
Would you all consider strategic placement of any of those smaller bollard fixtures on the path?
How about if we do a bollard where it intersects with the sidewalk?
I'm more concerned to the back area. That's what I'm
The problem
concerned
with
with.
the back here is we don't have any electricity back there. That's
Yeah.
why the solar lights seem to be a reasonable suggestion. And, you know, I'm just very wary about running electricity throughout the backyards and things, because once we're gone, you know, I don't know what's gonna happen. Someone's gonna put up something, they'll be digging a hole and, you know, they'll be hitting electric lines in
Sure.
a place that's totally unexpected.
Yeah.
So, you know, certainly, again, it's just brainstorming, but, you know, if you felt that strong about some bollard lights, you know, it would be practical and sensible we could put them at the front, so to speak, the intersection where we have electricity and where you've got, you know, an expectation for a future, you know, dig safe to find electrical wires. And then
Okay.
as we get into the backland, the cross-country areas, we go with the safer solar lights.
Okay, we'll
if
put that
works.
as, and be on there for the plan. The other thing I'd like to see, because when you do a plan, nobody goes back and looks at the decision, and you know what you're talking about on all the phasing and with with School Street and East Street and all that. Can you put that on a plan too?
It's there on the
I
phasing.
think it's in there.
Is it
Yeah, in
written?
the phasing plan, it says
Is-
off-site work.
But one thing on
Does it say
the,
how it's gonna go, though?
yes,
It says the order it's going in.
Which,
it says it on sequence 2, 3, and 4, but it's not noted on sequence 1.
That's an inadvertent. We'll add that same note to sequence 1 as well. It's on the other 3.
Timing of off-site
okay,
work. we
Right.
okay,
have
there it is,
So it does
okay.
go through
That was
there.
on 1. All right, so that's that will be added.
And just reiterating, those will be included in the bond, the off-site work?
That's
There's a
with the
separate bonds
selectmen.
for each one.
Separate bonds for that?
Yes, and those will be held by the Board of Selectmen, probably under the road opening, the street opening permit policy, but yes.
Trails, construction, fencing.
How about signage on the trail? If they're worried about safety concerns, what if there was signage at the entrance and the exit that say, use during daylight hours only, or something like that? No?
If you're gonna put the lights on there, they're gonna
You
use
don't
it.
need it.
Yeah, they're gonna use it anyway, right? But. Well, that takes care of all my construction comments. I don't have anything else.
Jack, I have one other thing.
Okay,
Just, if this portion, the last part, the wastewater pump station.
Yep.
If that's to be included with our submission, there's no signing block for planning board to sign any of those sheets?
on site plans, they don't record them, so
Okay,
all we have
so
to do is
that's not
sign
part
the
of it.
first sheet.
So it
Correct.
doesn't matter, okay, all right, so,
If they had to record, they didn't want us to sign them all.
okay.
Does it matter that the first couple of pages still says Worthington Green? Is that a big deal?
Yes.
It does?
3.0 and 3.1 say Worthington Green.
Okay. Yep, we can update that.
Oh, yeah.
I was channeling my Joe.
I was looking for that. I missed it.
It's usually a Joe thing. What are you
I
doing,
know.
Joe? Come on.
I'm not back, I'm still on vacation.
Me too.
Yeah, it was good.
They do it on purpose, so people just look and they stop looking. Oh, I'm all set. That's what Dan Merrickin did, to us. Okay, that's, any questions, comments? John, you have anything? Okay. All right, now I'd like to go over it so we understand the special conditions that, we've talked about is, you ready to rock and roll there? You look really thrilled about this. What do you give me that for? I'm not gonna write them for you.
Oh, no, it's just standard conditions that you wanted.
The reason I'm not gonna close it yet, because we wanna make sure we get these right too. And, okay. The following will be added to the plan prior to endorsement is, one, the trails will be shown as a what's the correct term? Millings? That's what I call it. Reclaimed asphalt.
Product, RAP.
Yeah, and it will have low solar lighting along the trail. That's one.
Can I ask one question? I'm
Yep.
sorry. Will just so I have a better view of the solar lighting, will it be permanently affixed? I mean, we're not talking about stuff that you just haphazardly stick in the ground and someone's gonna come and, it'll get destroyed after the first year, or is it gonna be something more permanent than that?
What's more permanent, like a concrete
Yeah,
Nothing too extreme, but maybe like just a solar-powered
Foundation?
bollard that just cannot be tripped over and torn up, like, all I can picture is like, going in and buying some Home Depot path lights, that are solar-powered that.
Well, they can put them in with a post driven down. I mean, you can take even a post out if you wanted, but if they drive them down, you don't want the little ones you can knock over with a lawnmower.
Yeah, I don't want someone that
pick
can,
up and-
when the guys are back there
There'll be
Yeah.
something
cutting the lawn.
substantial that's
Yeah, okay.
intended to be there.
Okay, and
Intended to be there
the
permanently.
solar lights will be something,
Perfect.
will be of a shape and size substantial to stay in perpetuity. Or when they are all done. The phasing plans will show the following: construction fencing at each phase, binder course at each phase, and what else do they have? And also the addition of all off-site improvements to be added to each phasing sheet. And let's see, the next one was millions phasing agreement. And also part of the special condition will, that the Pulte will give, prior to the conclusion of the final occupancy permit, an option whether to complete the work prior to the final issuance of the occupancy permit, or a bond that suits both party, that will ensure the completion of the unfinished work, something like that. Were there any other one? Oh,
Including offsite work.
yeah,
Just wanna make sure that gets.
yeah. And the other one is, as a note of a special condition, they must follow 527 CMR 1 NFPA 241. Yeah, you go back later, that's why I did.
What are the
Oh,
specifics
and-
of that, just out of curiosity? I mean, that's not like a security guard on site the whole time and all that stuff, is it? Is that written in there?
That's what's it,
CMR, you wanna look at it?
No, just out of curiosity.
they can enforce, I think, whatever they want.
Here's the CMR, and here's the NFPA.
Also, part of the special conditions, all off-site roadway improvements as proposed to the Board of Selectmen and approved on August 21st, 2018 will be part of this special condition, part of this approval. That's all I can think of. Those all set? I was, probably didn't say them too well, because no one objected from the audience. I probably made it too easy for you.
We've been talking about it for hours.
I know, but I just don't wanna, I don't wanna,
I get them all.
yeah, but you don't want somewhere down the road, you and I are not around, and someone, we don't have any misinterpretations.
Is it possible to review some kind of a draft for prior to?
Well, it says prior to the issuance, so anytime you guys, the way I think we agreed here tonight is a month before,
No.
you ready to do it, you guys decide at that point.
Yeah, no,
So, you know, this is a 2-3 year project, so it may not come until year 3.
Right, exactly.
But prior, before the final gun, it's up to you to come forward with that.
Yes, understood.
Okay. Those are special conditions, okay. Is everyone all set? Okay. I'll make a motion to close both hearings. You know,
I can't vote on that.
Oh, you can't? Okay, sorry.
Do we need new plans before we?
No,
We're
he's
just
gonna put
closing.
the phasing, yeah, it's part of the conditions prior to us signing the plans, because they can't go anywhere. He's gonna put that all on the phasing, lights, milling, all the stuff we requested, rather than hold them up, so we all agreed to that.
You're gonna allow them to still be able to have, even though you close the hearing, you're still gonna be allowed to have them have input.
Once we close it, no more.
Right. You know, do you really wanna do that then?
Well, there's nothing else other
I
than
mean,
vote.
I don't-
Nothing else other than vote. I can leave it open, it doesn't
You don't
matter.
wanna see it on new plans, everything?
Well, he's gonna put the millings on there,
Yeah,
and if it isn't right, Sarah, we can just say it ain't right, he's gotta fix it. We still get that.
And you won't sign it.
Yeah.
I
well,
check them over, I take the decision and all, I take the decision, the text of the decision, and anything else, and I try to find everything and make sure it's on there. And
Yeah.
there have been cases where they haven't been able to be, they'll say, well, we're gonna sign them at this meeting, and I'll look at them, and they're not there, so they go back and it gets put off.
okay,
Hopefully
What if
that
it's
won't
like
happen.
what we agreed, what we thought it should be, then
Yeah.
at that meeting, no, come back and do it again. Because we agreed what we want, now it's a matter of.
Does
what- and- and-
closing have any effect on the short-term rental argument that I brought up?
What do you mean?
The Airbnb, and they were there,
Well, their docks, we don't have any control over their docks either, though.
so they can do that separately.
Yeah, I mean, I would think they'd do that for their own. Okay, I'll leave it I'll leave it open, that way we can just, at the end, they'll just close the whole thing. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the site plan.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the special permit.
Second.
Second. Okay, any further discussions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
Okay, and I'd ask that the special conditions be put in both, so that it's double up. Belt suspenders and duct tape.
I think we have to close the hearing.
Okay, well, I just wanna, you guys, since you haven't closed, when are you guys gonna close?
They have to move out first, so,
Aren't they supposed to move out by, I thought they're supposed to be out by October 1st, no?
well, it doesn't look like they're gonna meet that schedule. So we're pushing.
Okay.
We would like to do it in October,
Mhm.
but I also need to have the, clean water document that we discussed a little earlier.
Okay.
So I don't see a reason why I won't have that this month. So
Okay.
fortunately, that was been taken care of, which was, more frankly, one of my big concerns.
My own question, you guys naming the buildings, you're just gonna call them building 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Well, we have them numbered, as you
Yeah.
just said, 1, 2, 3, 4 on our plans. And then we have, street address numbers,
Hmm.
but not a building name like the Aspen Wall or something like that.
Oh, okay.
It's just gonna be an address. once we're done with the construction side,
Mm.
everyone will know the building by its numeral, its address.
Okay.
Police, fire, residence.
You didn't name your trail, did you?
No, do you have any suggestions?
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact.
Well,
No,
certainly-
it's kinda, friend of mine worked there for over 45 years, and he passed about a month ago. He worked for the woodworkers, a guy named Joe Maloney. Could you name it the Maloney Path?
How do you spell it?
Maloney.
With the Y, okay.
Yeah, you been there?
I will certainly
Yeah, he's been there
take that
since,
to my.
he was, well, up until
office. I
he
have no
he
objection
passed
to that.
a month ago, he was here since, 1974. So he was all, unfortunately, he's all set to retire when you guys took over, but I appreciate it, and I'm sure his wife will. Okay, thank you. Make a motion, okay, I'll make a motion to close.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained?
Abstain.
Okay, done,
Thank you.
thanks.
So, thank you all very much for your input, your focus, your engagement, your time you put in this. I can see that, you've really read through the documents and the plans, and you have a lot of good suggestions, so I appreciate all that.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Thank you.
Do you guys have any obligation to buy their fences after you, when you go play?
I'm trying to get them to leave as much as
You,
possible.
you won't be able to afford them, as you know,
They're too
right?
expensive.
No. No, it'll be a new era. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does Pulte do its own financing? Financing?
Yes, I mean, so 2 stages, so all the construction work is all done internally. Then we have a mortgage subsidiary that does financing for the homeowners, the purchasers, if they choose to. They're not obligated to, but available to them.
Are you guys, like Toll Brothers, set up the finance too?
We do have
You do the same,
financing.
similar to Toll Brothers?
I don't like to say that.
Well, one of the things I couldn't understand, well, I understood later, that, their project over here in Endine, 198 of them, when everything was down, they're still selling.
Yeah.
Couldn't figure it out, except the people coming over there were doctors and whatever from either India or Pakistan with no standing in the US. Bank of Toll.
Yeah, yeah.
Bank of Toll, and they were just like hotcakes then. I couldn't figure out how they were selling during this down period. It was because they acted as a bank, because these people couldn't get a loan through a regular commercial bank in the US because of no history, and not even being at the time, not even being a resident, so they did well.
Yeah, we do have a multi-mortgage company, but it's very, I wouldn't hazard to say that it's any less stringent than, Walpole Savings or someplace. It's very heavily regulated, but it does help on the seamless part of, knowing when the closing is gonna be and having the money ready for the closing and, the builder and the lender talking to each other. It helps a lot there. So, yeah, we look forward to it. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Would you rather build apartments?
You mean rentals?
Yeah,
No.
no? I know there's more money in condos, but just the stuff I've been involved commercially with, working with contractors, is one thing you build apartments, this is all you get. And then when you get into condos, is like that, doing a lot at Seaport, you got 300 owners.
It's very different. You're absolutely right.
It is very,
It's very different. I've just, I've always been a for sale home ownership guy, and that's just kind of where my heart is, so to speak. And that's, everybody has a niche, and this is mine.
yeah, well, good
For
luck.
better or for worse.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Night.
Night.
Oh, when you do bring the plans back in, please show up the night you want them signed, so if there's any issues, we can speak. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Production Road, do they need extension?
That was the one that.
Oh, okay, that's right, they don't, because they're already
in
working.
progress.
They're in progress, okay. High Oaks, that's the last one tonight.
Can I have that folder back, please?
Did you send us one, Kate?
That was the one that you wanted an extension extension prior to reducing the bond, and I wrote to Greg Walsh, and right there is his response.
Is this the same one we dealt with before? Oh,
He says to the world.
way out of finish it with Ron. I mean, come on, Greg.
What is this?
All right, we're down to 214,000. We haven't voted that, right?
Because the bond expires on September 3rd.
Gotta hold it again.
How come?
Because he didn't give us a bond extension. He had until September 3rd. He should have asked, in theory or legal, they still bonded, but he's been asked twice. If you want, if he's going for the full one, Maggie, that'd be one thing, but he keeps going for reduction, so give us the bond extension. And that's actually to complete the time is what he's asking for. Not necessarily the bond, but the time to complete is what we need. That make sense, Kate?
So what did you decide? What?
The fire thing. The way that's written, us being the governing body of the jurisdiction, we could require them to keep a live security guard there 24/7.
Well,
They did that, while they were taking down the other buildings.
Yeah.
So we're doing nothing?
Only
I
when
mean,
they do
during
them.
construction, so they could have a security person there for
Long-term,
3
yeah.
years.
Yeah. That's it, Kate? All right, make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Not tonight.